Sugu took the kettle thrown by the other party without any pretense and took a big gulp down his throat. He was not used to practicing under high gravity yet. He was feeling a little tired at this moment, and his body was already sending out signals that it was craving water. Feng Yan threw the kettle at the perfect time. After taking a sip of water, Sugu felt that the water he swallowed turned into energy and surged towards his limbs and bones. It not only quenches thirst, but also removes fatigue and energy from the body. This was no ordinary water. Sugu's eyes widened and he was slightly surprised. Feng Yan looked at him and said with a smile, "This is regenerating water, which can help people quickly replenish their physical energy. It is the latest martial arts technology product, and it has not yet been mass-produced. It takes some credits in school to get it." "Thank you," Sugu said to Feng Yan, "this thing has helped me a lot." He looked at the kettle in his hand. He didn't expect that water could have so many ways. Sure enough, he still had to go out to broaden his horizons. A pot of water seemed to bring the two people closer. Feng Yan walked towards Sugu and looked at the other person curiously. "I don't know about continuous Sheng Shui. It seems that he is not from a noble family, but a commoner. And he should be a freshman just like himself, but in just 3 hours, he was able to master an A-level pace like this, a talent that even Feng Yan would be ashamed of. Student Sugu, I would like to ask, what is your power rating?" Feng Yan looked at Sugu and asked seriously. He was comparing Sugu to himself. "Although I really don't want to admit it, the opponent's understanding of combat skills may indeed be a little higher than mine. But in terms of adaptation to the high gravity zone and physical ability, he should be stronger than Sugu. To determine the winner, you should look at superpowers. It would be a bit impolite to directly ask what the other person's power is, so Feng Yan chose to make innuendos." Sugu listened to the other party's question and didn't pay attention. He smiled and said casually, "My superpower is an inferior superpower and has no rating. Because of this in high school, I was assigned to the liberal arts class and was prevented from pursuing the path of martial arts." Feng Yan was slightly stunned after hearing Sugu's experience. For a moment, he thought it was a joke made by Sugu because he didn't want others to pry into his privacy. But looking at the helplessness in the other person's eyes, Feng Yan understood that this was true. Superpowers are not the entire criterion for judging a warrior. Student Sugu, you are able to dominate the school with your talent and combat skills. There should not be many people in the same grade who are your opponents. You can compete for the top 2 in the freshman competition in a month's time." Feng Yan immediately comforted Sugu Dao. Although she accidentally revealed the other person's scar, she still couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. "If I can compete for the top 2, of course I am the first. 3-1, this is what I am winning." Sugu waved his hand indifferently, and then returned the kettle to the other party. "Thank you for the regeneration water. I'm not used to the gravity here yet, so this thing has helped me a lot." Feng Yan nodded and resumed his nonchalant attitude again. "Although 30 times the gravity is quite terrifying, staying here still requires replenishing the replenishing water, which means that Sugu is destined not to be a threat to himself." Feng Yan's interest in it suddenly dropped greatly. He stretched out his hand to take the kettle from Sugu. But the moment his fingers grasped the kettle, a heavy pressure like a mountain suddenly hit Feng Yan, and his entire face suddenly turned extremely pale. At that moment, Feng Yan felt his blood suddenly flowing backwards, his internal organs seemed to be grabbed by evil spirits, and they were being pulled madly towards hell, and the bones in his body made moaning sounds. "Ah!" He let out a scream, his whole vision went dark, and his body couldn't help but fall to the ground. "Feng Yan, what's wrong with you?" Sugu was stunned and didn't understand what happened. Just when Feng Yan was about to fall to the ground, he suddenly opened his eyes, and then put his elbows on the ground. Although he did not fall, big drops of sweat dripped from his head, and his whole body seemed to be fished out of the water. What just happened to Feng Yan? Sugu wanted to help him up. "Don't come here." Feng Yan seemed to have exhausted his last strength and shouted at Sugu. Sugu paused and took a few steps back. He also realized that the problem just now might be his own. "Just now when I touched the kettle, I felt a terrifying force of gravity. There must be something wrong with the gravity field on your body, and it spread to me after we came into contact." "What's going on with the gravity field on your body? Why does your body bear so much higher gravity than mine in the same space?" Feng Yan slowly stood up from the ground. The heavy pressure just now made him still have lingering fears. If Sugu had come to help him just now, he might have died. Sugu frowned and slowly pulled out the gravity bracelet from his sleeve. Then he turned out the display screen of the bracelet. He had been practicing and didn't pay attention. The number on the bracelet jumped from the 5 he said at the beginning to 20. So the school doesn't actually have a rule that you must wear a gravity bracelet when entering the 1,000-story tower? Sugu's voice had a rare coldness. How could there be such a stupid rule? Feng Yan looked at Sugu and the number 20 on his gravity bracelet, as if he was looking at a monster. Co-author. You have been practicing in a gravity field that is 20 times stronger than mine. Just now, you were still doing A-level combat skills and frequency conversion steps there. And your movements were not deformed. What kind of monster is this? At this moment, Sugu wanted to understand a lot of things in an instant. He recalled the appearance of the 2 people who blocked him at the entrance of the 1,000-layered tower, and then a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. He doesn't like to cause trouble, but he is not afraid of it. Now that someone has offended him, Sugu doesn't mind giving him an unforgettable lesson. After Feng Yan stood up, he immediately distanced himself from Sugu, not wanting to have any physical contact with him. He didn't even want the pot of regenerating water in Sugu's hand, and it was a shadow after looking at it. The feeling just now almost made him see the scene of hell, and he really didn't want to experience it a second time. Sugu looked at Feng Yan and felt a little sorry. He felt that he was quite sorry for Feng Yan, who was obviously kind enough to replenish his vitality, but in the end he was almost tricked to death. Sugu scratched his head, hesitated for a moment and then said, "The combat skill you just practiced, when you mobilize the muscles of your left leg, you should have a sluggish feeling, I am not wrong." After Feng Yan heard this, his eyes towards Sugu became a little ugly. Anyone who directly mentioned the flaws in his own moves would not be in a good mood, not to mention that Feng Yan had suffered a big loss from Sugu just now and had a very bad impression of him. Before Feng Yan could get angry, Sugu continued. When you do that action, you can lower your body's center of gravity by 2 centimeters in advance, so that you can eliminate the sluggish feeling. This was Sugu's way of expressing his apology. He had neither money nor anything to express his apology to Feng Yan, so he simply helped him make up for the shortcomings in his fighting skills. It can be regarded as his little thought. Feng Yan's frown deepened. Generally, those who are qualified to guide others to practice combat skills, or have higher proficiency in the same combat skills than the person being mentored, or even the originator of the combat skills. It is naturally impossible for Sugu to meet this requirement. Every combat skill in the 1,000-story tower is unique, and this combat skill was just in Feng Yan's hands and he was practicing. Then there is only one other possibility left. The mentor's overall vision of the martial arts path far exceeds that of the mentor. Feng Yan looked at Sugu and felt an unspeakable anger. You and I are obviously both freshmen, so how can you be qualified to guide me? Try it, if it doesn't work I'll apologize to you. After seeing through Feng Yan's mind, Sugu comforted him and said. Feng Yan took a deep breath and suppressed the unhappiness in his heart. He followed what Sugu said and began to practice the combat skill just now. When he used his left leg to lower his center of gravity as Sugu said, something incredible happened. That feeling of stagnation has really disappeared. Even the movements of the entire move have become smoother. There is a subtle gap. Only Feng Yan, a combat skill user, knows how big the gap is. If Sugu hadn't woken him up, he didn't know how long he would have been groping alone. After a set of combat skills was completed, Feng Yan asked with some trembling, Brother Su, how did you see it? As long as you know more combat skills, you can naturally understand by analogy, Sugu replied with a smile. Feng Yan was silent. A little more? A little more? What exactly is this extra combat skill? Feng Yan looked at Sugu and felt a little numb now. Physical talent, the opponent can practice under 50 times gravity. The combat skill talent is even more capable of rubbing against oneself. Maybe I am indeed a little stronger than the opponent because of my own special ability. When the sun sets and the moon rises, Feng Yan slowly walks down from the high gravity area. Although the school gives students only 1 day to practice, I have never heard of anyone who can stay in the high gravity area and practice uninterruptedly. For Feng Yan, practicing for 10 consecutive hours under 30 times the gravity has reached his limit. At this moment, he raised his head and seemed to be looking through the ceiling at the area where he had just practiced. A look of awe flashed across his face. Sugu is still reading about combat skills and still practicing. The two were obviously about the same age, but the gap was so big. Feng Yan never compared himself with Sugu again. Some are just a kind of reverence as if they are treating the elders of the clan. This was the first time Feng Yan had such emotions among his peers. Under Sugu's guidance, he mastered one more A-level combat skills than originally planned. Originally, he wanted to reciprocate the favor and use his superpower to help Sugu remove the gravity bracelet from his hand. But he was declined by Sugu. The reason is that with this, you can better stimulate your potential. That's 20 times the gravity, plus the 1,000-layered tower's own gravity field. It's 50 times the gravity. Sugu didn't look relaxed when he spoke. 50 times the gravity was still a big burden even for a monster like him. But Feng Yan could never forget the sincerity towards martial arts in his eyes. It was painful to be tortured by gravity, but Su Jiyu enjoyed it. Don't leave yet, wait for him. Feng Yan stopped in the low-gravity area and waited silently, like a guard guarding the king. The moon sets and the sun rises, and unknowingly another day of reincarnation has passed. Snapped. Huh. Sugu screamed in surprise. The text on the combat skills book he was flipping through suddenly disappeared. He glanced at the electronic clock hanging in the gravity room and realized that 24 hours had passed. Sugu flipped through the book in his hand again, and then took out other combat skills on the bookshelf and looked through them, confirming that they had all turned into blank sheets of paper. It was as if a night of study and practice was just a big dream. Sugu said reluctantly, "That's all, I have to stay in this school for 4 years anyway. There will be many opportunities to join in the future." Sugu stood up from the chair. His skin had begun to bleed from the long-term heavy pressure. The white military uniform he was wearing was dyed in clusters of red, as if plum blossoms were blooming from his body. "I still don't practice enough." Sugu looked at the bloodstains on his clothes and said calmly. Then we walked down from the 1,000 layers tower, from the high power area to the low power area. Brother Su. When he saw Sugu coming downstairs after finishing his practice, Feng Yan, who had been waiting, greeted him respectfully. He looked at Sugu with awe. The other party actually practiced for a whole day under 50 times the gravity. He hasn't left yet. Sugu glanced at Feng Yan in surprise. He thought he had already returned to the dormitory. "Waiting for you, Brother Su. Give me the bracelet and I'll take it off for you." Sugu didn't refuse this time, he stretched out his hands. Feng Yan stretched out a finger, and two strong winds in opposite directions swirled and rubbed against his fingertip area, creating thunder and lightning. The two forces of wind and thunder were perfectly controlled by him. He slashed at Sugu's gravity bracelet in the air, and the bracelet snapped. The level of superpower development is very high. After the gravity bracelet broke, Sugu felt his body became lighter, and even his breathing felt much more comfortable. He stretched his muscles and praised Feng Yan. This was the first time he had seen someone develop other attributes of a single attribute superpower. After receiving Sugu's affirmation, Feng Yan looked a little proud and said, "Brother Su, should we take a rest or go out directly?" Sugu felt the fatigue of his body and said with a wry smile, "It's better to take a rest first." While Sugu was resting, 3 students, wearing the same style of black clothes, walked on the floating board towards the 1,000-story martial arts pagoda. That black suit is the uniform of the Star Martial Arts University Student Union. They are all members of the student union. Among the 3 people, the one walking behind complained to the person in the middle. "Vice Chairman, there's still 1 week left until the official start of school. Why are we going to the 1,000 Layers Tower?" Faced with the complaints from his subordinates, Yu Kunxiao, the vice chairman of the student union, scratched his head and said helplessly, "This year, there are 2 specially recruited freshmen. We made an exception and allowed them to enter the 1,000-story tower to practice in advance. But those 2 are freshmen after all. Their bodies will definitely feel extremely uncomfortable when they come out of the gravity zone of the 1,000-story tower for the first time. The 3 of us are going to take a look to avoid any accidents." After listening to the chairman's words, the 2 of them nodded suddenly, then clicked their tongues. 2 freshmen. There are actually 2 freshmen who can be treated so unusually by the school. It seems that the number of students this year is very good. After hearing this, Yu Kunxiao also sighed with emotion. Indeed, one of the 2 is called Sugu. He has no power and is just an ordinary civilian. During the martial arts exam, I crossed a large realm and killed a warrior-level alien. This record is better than what I did back then. After hearing this, the two people behind them clucked their tongues. Those who can kill enemies across realms, no matter how they do it, are worthy of being called a genius. Where is the other person, Chairman? Please don't show off. The two men immediately urged the vice chairman to continue. The expression on Yu Kunxiao's face was a little uncomfortable. After hesitating for a moment, he said, "There is another person named Feng Yan, who is the heir to the Feng family." Feng family? After hearing this, the expressions on the two people's faces change. This is a big family with a long history. It stands to reason that their disciples will not be sent to universities outside, but will stay in the family and be personally guided by the masters of the family. The heir of such a family would actually come to Starry Sky Martial Arts University? According to rumors, something happened to this family recently, Yu Kunxiao said lightly. One of these two people represents the common people, and the other represents the aristocratic family. They are the two most promising newcomers in the school this year. This year's freshman competition might be the collision between these two people. Speaking of this, Yu Kunxiao's face became a little angry, as if he remembered some bad memories. He gritted his teeth and said, "I hope Sugu can give Feng Yan a good beating in the freshman competition. Isn't it just that the martial arts talent is higher? Can you be a good person?" The two people following Yu Kunxiao immediately shut up and stopped talking. They vaguely remembered that a few weeks ago, the vice chairman went to help the school teachers conduct special recruitment. After returning that time, he went to the virtual spirit world alone to vent for a long time. It seems that that incident is related to Feng Yan. The three of them rushed to the 1,000-story tower in silence all the way. At this moment, Yu Kunxiao realized that several people were waiting here early. Seeing the appearance of the three people clearly, Yu Kunxiao narrowed his eyes and said sternly, "Zheng Lu, what are you doing here?" Zheng Lu, Qian Hao, and Li Chu stood at the entrance of the martial arts 1,000-story tower, with relaxed expressions on their faces. After the three of them gave the broken gravity bracelet to Sugu, they met here to see Sugu's ugly appearance when he came out of the 1,000-story tower. It must have been a pleasant scene. "Zheng Lu, what are you doing here?" Yu Kunxiao's sharp scolding broke the leisurely and peaceful atmosphere between the three of them. Zheng Lu, who was called, turned his head, looked at Yu Kunxiao and said with a smile, "What's wrong, Vice Chairman Yu? There are no school rules in the school. You can't go for a walk near the 1,000-story martial arts tower." The two stared at each other in the air, confronting each other, and the atmosphere was somewhat tense. In the past 2 years, major martial arts universities have begun to increase their special recruitment quotas for some small aristocratic families. In order to save the declining ranking of universities, Xingkong Martial Arts University had no choice but to start to follow this trend. The influx of aristocratic families further squeezed the already limited martial arts resources of the common people, and the opposition between the two classes became increasingly acute. This scene is just the tip of the iceberg. "Zheng Lu, please stop talking here and there. What are you doing here?" As the vice president of the student union, Yu Kunxiao helped the teachers in the admissions office and did some admissions reviews for disciples from aristocratic families. So he knew exactly what the Zheng family and Zheng Lu were. This kind of person, with his 3 younger brothers, was staring at the school's martial arts tower. There was no way he wasn't planning something in his mind. When Zheng Lu saw that the other party exposed the truth directly, he simply stopped pretending and said with a smile, "Why are you so nervous, Chairman Yu? What bad thoughts could I have? Of course I came here to see the champion from the same province as me. I've always wanted to see with my own eyes this classmate Sugu who beat me in the martial arts exam." The other party came for Su Ji Yu. For a moment, alarm bells rang in Yu Kunxiao's heart, and his mind was racing, thinking about what the other party was going to do. You must know that the 1,000-story martial arts tower is the foundation of Starry Sky Martial Arts University. It is impossible for ordinary people to enter without the permission of the top leaders of the school. Why is he messing around? Yu Kunxiao glanced at Qian Hao and Li Chu behind Zheng Lu, suddenly thought of something, and the expression on his face suddenly changed. He scolded sternly, "Where did you put those broken gravity bracelets? Damn it, you are from the student union. How could you do this? This will cost lives." Faced with the anger of the vice chairman of the student union, Qian Hao and Li Chu looked a bit flinching, and they took a step back, not daring to say a word. At this time, Jung Lu took a step forward, blocked the two of them in front of him and said arrogantly, "Vice Chairman Yu, why are you so angry? Of course you lost that pair of bracelets. But maybe some ignorant country bumpkin took the bracelet back. How can Qian Hao and Li Chu be blamed for this?" Yu Kunxiao looked at Jung Lu's face, and his whole face turned purple with anger. When Jung Lu saw this, he still added fuel to the fire with a smile on his face and said, "Vice Chairman, don't get so angry. As long as that person is not so stupid that he wears a gravity bracelet and goes to the 30x gravity zone to learn A-level combat skills, there is a high chance that he will still be alive. It's just going to be seriously injured." Yu Kunxiao was almost about to fight Jung Lu on the spot, but the two people behind him stopped him and said, "Chairman, please don't be impulsive now. Yes, the top priority now is to save people. We must first call the school infirmary, and then find a way to rescue Sugu. If you were provoked by Jung Lu and started fighting with him now, the situation would become more complicated. The other party would definitely be happy to do this." Yu Kunxiao took a deep breath and forced down the anger in his heart. His two younger brothers were right. Although the other party's attitude is extremely arrogant, he does not have enough evidence to identify the other party. Once he takes action, he will have endless arguments with the other party. Moreover, Sugu entered the 1,000-layered tower with the bracelet and has not come out for a day. There is a high probability that he has been unconscious due to the strong gravity. The situation may even be worse. Now that there is no human or physical evidence, the situation is very unfavorable to him. Yu Kunxiao picked up his cell phone and started to call the school infirmary. He had to put the medical equipment in place first and then save people. Jung Lu looked at Yu Kunxiao, who was on the phone, and continued to challenge. "Remember to bring more good things to save people. Maybe Sugu is inside and his brains have been squeezed out." Veins popped out in Yu Kunxiao's hand holding the phone, but he ignored the other party. After properly contacting the school infirmary, Yu Kunxiao looked up at the 1,000-story tower above his head with a blank expression on his face. How to get Sugu out? Without proof from the school's top brass, the 1,000-story martial arts tower was a forbidden area and he couldn't enter at all. "Vice Chairman, aren't we here to pick up two people? There is another person inside now, why not let him help?" Someone whispered against Yu Kunxiao's ear, "Feng Yan. Let him bring Sugu out. This is indeed a way. Although the Feng family is a martial arts family, it has always been more responsible than other families. It is also friendly to ordinary people and does not deliberately embarrass others. Their reputation is pretty good." But when he thought of the name Feng Yan, Yu Kunxiao's head started to hurt. That arrogant guy will not pay attention to anyone who he thinks is of average strength. When Yu Kunxiao came into contact with him at that time, he was made furious for a time, and the special recruitment incident almost went awry. To be honest, I really can't imagine that Feng Yan would spend time searching and rescuing others in the 1,000-layered tower. Yu Kunxiao sighed and began to look through the contact list on his phone. But now we can only try to see if we can still contact him. Yu Kunxiao recalled the first time he met Feng Yan, his extremely arrogant face, and his subsequent request for help in saving people. He felt uncomfortable in his heart. Just when Yu Kunxiao was about to make a call, there was a burst of footsteps from the exit of the 1,000-story tower. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on the exit. Yu Kunxiao's face suddenly turned pale. If Feng Yan came out at this time, Sugu would be completely trapped and died in the 1,000-story tower, and his life would probably be in danger. The expressions of Jung Lu and his party were exactly the opposite. All three of them did not hide the proud expressions on their faces. Although they had framed Sugu, who would know that they had done it as long as there was no evidence? Jung Lu could hardly restrain himself and burst into laughter. But before laughter could come out of his open mouth, it was as if his jaw had been dislocated and was frozen there, motionless. Yu Kunxiao silently took back the phone he picked up, with a trace of disbelief flashing in his eyes. The snow-white military uniform was stained with blood, like a lonely blood plum blooming on the wearer's body. Although the face was as pale as paper, it could not cover up the handsome features. Sugu pushed the door open from the exit. He looked at the people surrounding him, tilted his head slightly and said, "What are you doing here?" Jung Lu stared at Sugu's face. The clothes on his body were obviously dyed red by his own blood. Sugu was injured, but the extent of the injury was much less than he expected. This kind of minor injury will heal on its own without seeing a doctor before the freshman competition. Sugu was locked up for a whole day, a full 24 hours, under the double superposition of the 20 times gravity of the gravity bracelet and the gravity field of the Millennium Tower. According to Jung Lu's estimation, he would have to be seriously injured and comatose for at least half a year. This period would be enough for him to finish all the finishing work of this plan, and no one would be able to blame this matter on his head in the future. But now everything has changed. How could he be okay? How could he be okay? The expressions on the faces of Qian Hao and Li Chu behind Jung Lu also turned pale. Damn it. This was different from the plan. If they were identified by Sugu, they would be expelled from school. Yu Kunxiao breathed a long sigh of relief when he saw that Su Jiyu was fine. Just suffering such a minor injury was already much better than the best-case scenario he had considered. But now he is also curious about how Sugu came out. Soon, everyone got the answer. After Sugu pushed the door open, Feng Yan also stepped out of the 1,000-story tower. He stood half a step back from Sugu, holding in his hand the gravity bracelet that he had destroyed with his supernatural power. It seems that Sugu was rescued by Feng Yan. Looking at Feng Yan next to Sugu, some people felt itchy with hatred, while others breathed a long sigh of relief. Yu Kunxiao. Great, luckily nothing happened. Jung Lu. Damn it, why is he so lucky? Sugu didn't know that these people had done so many psychological activities after he came out. After scanning the faces of these 6 people, he instantly noticed Qian Hao and Li Chu. Sugu's eyes suddenly condensed, and everyone present felt a strong sense of oppression. The weak-looking young man who had just walked out of the 1,000-story tower seemed to have turned into a lustful evil spirit in an instant. Although it turned out that the gravity bracelet that the two tricked Sugu into wearing did not cause any harm to him. But there is a viper-like malice in this behavior. Sugu is a person who can talk to everyone with a genial smile, but the clay figurines are still very angry, and the other people want their own lives. Naturally, Sugu will not hide his murderous intention towards these people. This is all a misunderstanding. Qian Hao and Li Chu were the 6 people who were most directly facing the pressure from Sugu. They felt as if an evil ghost was sucking their throats at this moment. Even if it is now obvious that Sugu is weak, and even if they are 3 against 1 standing behind Jung Lu, the 2 of them have no sense of security at this moment. They wanted to run away, but were too frightened to move. Classmate Sugu, these 2 people have something to do with my Jung family. Is there anything that cannot be resolved between classmates? I am willing to pay some price to resolve the grudges between us. At this moment, Jung Lu stood up and stood in front of the 2 of them to confront Sugu. After all, these 2 were the younger brothers who had just come to school by themselves. If the 2 of them were to end like this, how could they still mess around? Moreover, Jung Lu knew that Sugu was just an ordinary civilian with no power behind him. How to deal with these ordinary people? The Jung family has almost become perfect at it after dealing with them many times. Give them a little benefit, and these civilians can forget the unpleasantness inflicted on them. And just as he finished speaking, Sugu seemed to have really restrained his murderous aura. Seeing the opponent's concession, Jung Lu looked a little proud. This guy is quite sensible. Ah. And just when Jung Lu relaxed for a moment, 2 miserable screams came from him. Sugu had appeared behind him, while Qian Hao and Li Chu had fallen to the ground, not knowing whether they were alive or dead. Is this Shunpo? Yu Kunxiao, who had been watching from the side, suddenly contracted his pupils. It was obviously only a sea-level combat skill, but it was so fast that he, a bystander, could hardly keep up. Moreover, the timing of the attack was ruthless and decisive. The moment the murderous aura disappeared and Jung Lu relaxed, he completed a double kill. This level is what several special recruits in the Assassin Academy can achieve. Sugu is still injured now. Sugu, Jung Lu roared angrily and took out the finger tiger he carried with him. In front of him, he made his own people confused whether they were alive or dead. This is not only beating his person, but also slapping him in the face. Facing Jung Lu's anger, Sugu's face remained calm. At this time, Feng Yan snorted coldly and stood in front of Sugu. Brother Su is injured. If you really want to have fun, I will help you. Seeing Feng Yan next to Sugu, Jung Lu's pupils shrank suddenly, and then the anger in his heart rose even more. The damn thing, last time it was Zhou Zhengxing from the army, this time it was the young head of the Feng family. Why is this Sugu so lucky? Someone is willing to protect him every time. This Feng Yan has a good character. When he sees others in trouble, he takes the initiative to help. A boy next to Yu Kunxiao said softly. Yu Kunxiao was also confused when he saw this. It was obviously not like this last time he saw Feng Yan. Why has he changed his gender now? But they couldn't dwell on it now. As the student union, they couldn't watch two groups of students start fighting in front of them. Yu Kunxiao looked at Qian Hao and Li Chu, who had fallen to the ground, not knowing whether they were alive or dead. The top priority now was to prevent the situation from deteriorating. In the tense atmosphere of the three-party confrontation, a loud honking sound of the medical vehicle rang out. A white medical-specific hover vehicle quickly landed in the middle area of the three-party confrontation from high altitude. A group of angels in white swarmed out of the medical vehicle like well-trained soldiers. Where is Sugu? Where is the student named Sugu? Who else called for rescue? A nurse with an anxious look stood in the middle of the three people and shouted. After hearing the shouts of the medical staff, Sugu was about to raise his hand, but was immediately interrupted by the anxious voices of several other doctors. Sugu, are you still looking for it? Aren't there two lying here? Isn't Sugu alone? Whatever, one of them is right. Send them to the car first. A group of medical staff passed through the confrontation between the three people and carried Li Chu and Qian Hao onto the medical vehicle. Holy crap, today's students are really careless in their actions. Even if these two people can be cured, they will probably only be in a conscious vegetative state. A medical staff member checked the injuries of the two people and complained aloud. The three opposing forces silently watched the medical staff operate. Zheng Lu put away his thumb and looked at his two younger brothers being loaded into the ambulance. Feng Yan also took back his powers. Sugu yawned, he was a little sleepy. Suddenly, the tense atmosphere dissipated a lot. Boss is so wise. He called an ambulance in advance to stop these two groups from fighting. Otherwise, we might not be able to pull them apart even if we rely on them. The members of the student union gave Yu Kunxiao an elbow and flattered him. Yu Kunxiao touched his head after listening to his younger brother's praise. Is this why he called the ambulance? Something seems wrong? Forget it, never mind it, as long as the goal is achieved. Zheng Lu took the school infirmary's car and left the martial arts tower area. Before leaving, he gave Sugu a hard look. This bridge is finally settled. From now on, he and Sugu will have no choice but to fight to the death. But Sugu ignored Zheng Lu at all. His eyes stared at the location of the 1,000-story martial arts tower again, his eyes deep. Congratulations to the two students for coming out of the 1,000-story martial arts tower. I believe you both have found the combat skills you need here. Seeing that the trouble had completely disappeared, Yu Kunxiao immediately walked towards Sugu and Feng Yan. He tried his best to greet these two people in the most cordial tone. Then he looked at Sugu and said apologetically, I'm sorry, classmate Sugu. These two scum appeared in our student union, and they almost caused a big accident for you. You don't have to worry about Li Chu and Qian Hao, we will handle it properly. Su Jiyu turned his head, looked at Yu Kunxiao's sincere expression, and asked with some confusion. Excuse me, who are you? The expression on Yu Kunxiao's face froze, and he looked at Feng Yan next to him and winked a few times. Seeing that you are so familiar with Sugu, please introduce me to me. Feng Yan glanced at it, then looked at Sugu and said. This is my defeated man, the one I beat up a few weeks ago. I don't remember the rest very clearly. Yu Kunxiao's fist hardened. Damn it, I just thought this kid had changed his gender. I really had my brain kicked by a donkey to have such an idea. Feng Yan, you still have to remember the other person's name in the future, otherwise it will be too rude. Sugu said helplessly. Yes, what Brother Su taught me is that I will pay attention to it in the future, Feng Yan said respectfully. Seeing the completely different attitudes between each other, Yu Kunxiao felt that his mind could not turn around, and an inexplicable grievance spurted out from the bottom of his heart, which he could not suppress. Why, is it just because Sugu is handsomer than me? This is Yu Kunxiao, the vice chairman of our student union. Because the school is worried that the two of them may not adapt to the gravity of the 1,000-layered tower for the first time and have an accident, they sent us to look after the two special admission students. The student council members wearing the same clothes on the side kindly helped explain. Nice to meet you. Sugu showed a warm smile and shook hands with the other party. Feeling Sugu's polite attitude, Yu Kunxiao's mood improved slightly, and the two began to walk and chat. Yu Kunxiao told Suji Yu everything he knew about the school rules and disciplines that needed to be basically followed in the school, as well as some information about the instructors. Sugu responded with a smile and expressed his respect and gratitude to the other party. The two had a great conversation. During this period, Feng Yan felt a little bored after listening, said hello and went back first, leaving Sugu alone to walk around the campus with these student union members. When Yu Kunxiao noticed that Sugu's eyes were always looking in the direction of the martial arts thousand-story tower intentionally or unintentionally, the expression on his face was somewhat pity. Although Sugu seemed to be alive now, his breath was extremely weak. To torture such a powerful warrior like this, it's hard to imagine how painful and helpless he must have been in the thousand-layered tower of martial arts. Seeing if he has to look there, there is probably a shadow in his heart. Yu Kunxiao said, "Classmate Suji Yu, do you need me to call a psychiatrist for you?" After hearing what the other party said, Sugu looked at the other party's worried face and immediately understood what he was thinking. So he waved his hands and said, "No, I'm mentally healthy." Then he was afraid that the other party wouldn't believe it, so he added, "I looked at the thousand-layered tower just because I was impressed by the deep reserve of combat skills inside. I practiced hard here all night, and I didn't even finish learning the combat skills I wanted to learn. I still have to keep working hard." With Sugu's superpower, he studied hard all night on the top floor of the thousand-story tower, but he didn't even finish learning the combat skills on the top floor. One can imagine the horror of the books inside. This further stimulated Sugu's desire for knowledge. He was already thinking about how to enter here again to study. After hearing this, Yu Kunxiao frowned. Didn't you even learn combat skills overnight? With the talent shown by Sugu, it shouldn't be. Then he remembered something and cursed in his mind. Looking at Sugu's current injuries, it is naturally impossible to go to the high-gravity area where A-level combat skills are stored. Otherwise, under the superposition of that kind of power, he would have been crushed into minced meat. But from Sugu's perspective, the only way for him to quickly improve his martial arts strength is to quickly master A-level combat skills. And it is impossible for the school to open the thousand-layered tower again for Sugu because he failed to master A-level combat skills. It is tantamount to saying that one of his opportunities to obtain the first prize in martial arts was ruined by that villain Zheng Lu. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt sympathy for Sugu. It was not easy. It is really difficult for those of us who were born as civilians to climb up. Yu Kunxiao patted Sugu's shoulder hard, and then said sincerely, "Junior, don't worry, it's okay even if you haven't learned the skills you like. You have to stay in this school for 4 more years. As long as you can achieve good results in school, the martial arts thousand-layered tower will definitely be open to you again." "Thank you, senior, for your encouragement." Sugu's eyes flashed with light. "I think so too. I will definitely come here again." Feeling that Suji Yu was not affected by this incident, Yu Kunxiao felt relieved. After thinking about it, he took out a USB flash drive from his pocket and handed it to Sugu, and then said, "Here is another condition for the school to recruit you. You can choose any method in the school as your practice method. This USB flash drive contains information on the characteristics of the exercises that the school can provide to you. It does not include the content of the exercises. You have entered the realm of seeking me. You can choose the technique that suits you and transform the soul power gained from the transitional technique, Tian Yuan Gong, into the real soul power of the main technique. Fortunately, although the Tian Yuan Gong is weak in power, it is neutral and peaceful. There will be no loss in the transformation, let alone any damage to the body." Sugu used the projection computer he carried with him to scan the information in the USB flash drive. Numerous complex techniques have been organized into categories according to various martial arts professions. There is also a whole page of recommended exercises that the school teacher has analyzed that are more suitable for Sugu. It can be said that it is very attentive. Then I'll accept it. "Thank you, Vice Chairman," Sugu said after hesitating for a moment. He doesn't want to expose the fact that he is transforming Tian Yuan Gong yet, so he can only accept this kind offer. "This is what should be given to you," Yu Kunxiao said. "I suggest that in addition to the exercises recommended by your teacher, you focus on assassin-related exercises. I think you are very talented in the way of an assassin." Thinking about the move that the other party used to defeat his younger brother in front of Zheng Lu, Yu Kunxiao still felt amazing. Of course, if you have any questions when choosing exercises, you can always come to the school's instructors and ask. They will be sure to answer any questions you may have. Sugu responded to the other party's careful instructions with a smile. What he was thinking about at the moment was how to cover up the transformation of his skills. Yu Kunxiao continued, Sugu, you have the best performance in martial arts examinations among all the civilian students we recruited. Many instructors who were born as civilians have high hopes for you. You must win the freshman competition in a month's time and get a good ranking. Let us commoners also breathe a sigh of relief in front of the aristocratic family. Regarding the fight between common people and aristocratic families, Yu Kunxiao also taught Sugu a lot just now. After hearing this, Sugu showed a wry smile on his face. Although he and the aristocratic family can't get together, he doesn't want to be pushed to the front by the common people as a flag bearer. The new principal Dabi is also there. If you perform well enough there and attract the attention of those high-level officials, you can make some small requests. Maybe you can enter the 1,000-story martial arts tower again to study. Sugu looked at Yu Kunxiao with a serious face and said, Chairman Yu, please also tell me all the detailed information about the freshman competition. Sugu will definitely live up to your high expectations. 1 week after coming out of the 1,000 layers of martial arts pagoda, Sugu stood in the middle of the underground training room of the dormitory with a dagger in his hand. Under his feet were 2,000 armored human piles that he had just chopped down. Sugu glanced at his killing efficiency displayed on the screen and let out a dissatisfied, tisk, sound. Although he had been resting for a week, the internal injuries he suffered under high gravity still had some impact on him. Fortunately, in the first week of school, most freshmen will choose this time to break through to the big realm. All the teachers in the school have been transferred to protect the students, and classes are almost suspended in the freshman year. Otherwise, I might be forced to miss school on the first day of school. Sugu said softly. Now the freshman year of Starry Sky Martial Arts University has started, but the difference between martial arts university and ordinary universities is that the breakthrough of students' realm is the top priority. As for the freshmen who have just started school, most of them will choose to take a credit loan to directly purchase the breaking skills after enrolling. Therefore, in the first week of school, the school's teachers will be extremely busy. Generally speaking, classes for new students will be suspended in the first week. As for Sugu, he had broken through the realm early, so staying in the dormitory was quite leisurely. After stopping today's practice, Sugu returned to the living room upstairs from the underground practice room. Hey, hee, this ID called Crazy Wolf is really stupid. As soon as he came to the ground from the underground, he heard Ma Mingjia sitting on the sofa making a strange laugh. Because the student dormitory of Xingkong Wuhan University is too big, a single person can only live in a 3-story villa. Although there is no need to worry about food and drink, living alone will inevitably make you feel bored. Therefore, many students will spontaneously form multi-person dormitories. This was the case for Ma Mingjia and Sugu. The two of them had been sleeping in a dormitory until they were put down from the floating car. Unlike Sugu, who had broken through the realm early, the little fat boy was still far away from breaking through. At this time, he had nothing to do since school started, so he just took care of the website every day. He used his authority as the founder of the website to create dozens of accounts to chat on the Martial God Home website to ensure the activity of the Almighty Martial God discussion area on the website. Each account has its own mission, whether it is to lead the rhythm or answer questions. Although Mr. Ma could have paid someone to do it, he chose to do it himself. He seems to have gained a different kind of happiness from this matter, and he can have fun looking at the computer every day. Brother Su, you've finished practicing. You still have to balance work and rest. Your injuries haven't healed yet. Hearing Sugu's voice coming up from the ground, Ma Mingjia turned back and looked at him. It's not bad, Sugu said. I haven't moved my body for a long time, and my hands are itchy. I will go to the martial arts dojo in the virtual spirit world later. You should also prepare quickly. This was an agreement between the two of them. Every time Su Jiyu entered the virtual spirit world as the Almighty God of War, he would notify Ma Mingjia. He wanted to take pictures of the scene from the auditorium with the best view, and broadcast it live at the house of the God of War. After listening to Sugu's words, Ma Mingjia scratched his head and said, Brother Su, how about you rest for a few more days? You haven't fully recovered from your injury yet, The state of consciousness in the virtual spirit world is a complete reflection of the physical state. If you go to the martial arts dojo to fight to the death now, you will be at a huge disadvantage. Facing the dissuasion from his good brother, Sugu just smiled and said, "No need." As he spoke, he had already picked up his X device. Seeing this, Ma Mingjia shrugged. He knew that he could not persuade Sugu no matter what, so he simply took out his X device. The two entered the virtual spiritual world again. The moment Sugu appeared with the ID of Almighty Martial God, fans of Martial God House who paid special attention to the ID of Almighty Martial God immediately received the news. And they all made the same choice unanimously. Damn it, Brother Wu Shen is finally here. Brother, hurry up and get on board. Come on, come on. After watching so many videos of the martial arts dojo, Brother Wu Shen's show is still the most effective. I want to see if he can make random weapons again today. Hurry up and grab a seat. Now the Almighty Martial God is no longer the unknown person he was before. I guess if it's too late, we won't be able to go to the venue and we'll have to watch the live broadcast. In an instant, people who were paying attention to the Almighty Martial God swarmed around. Some were fans, and most of them came to have fun. My day, the all-powerful Martial God is finally online. Moon, the training room of the Stark Family University. Anderson's eyes turned red as he looked at the message that popped up on his phone. After he was defeated by the Almighty Martial God, he never thought about fighting him again. If he did it again, he would definitely use his specialized weapons and respond with all his strength from the beginning. But when he sent the challenge letter to the Almighty Martial God's mailbox, the other party ignored him, and the letter remained unread. He thought about adding friends first, but the friend request he sent also came to nothing. The other party seemed to have lost interest in him. No one in the Stark family had ever suffered such injustice. Anderson immediately vowed to get this place back. Only by knowing yourself and the enemy can you win every battle. In order to know more about the Almighty Martial God, he went to a website that he thought was extremely stupid and registered an ID called Crazy Wolf. As a result, on that spam website, dozens of big jerks posted spam messages in the discussion area every day. If that's all, forget it, there are still people who keep teasing him in private messages. Seeing the mean tone when chatting with him, Anderson was so angry that he wanted to follow the network cable and slap the man. He endured such days for 7 days, the Almighty God of War. Do you know how I spent these 7 days, Captain? I hope to take a day off. The Almighty Martial God is here, and I hope to watch him. Anderson looked at the Captain Kiyu Ya who was leading his training, swallowed and said. Schiller next to him looked at him with wide eyes and an expression of, "You are crazy." You know what the captain hates the most is missing training due to chores. Does Anderson want to be disciplined? Anderson was extremely worried now, but he couldn't control that much. The Almighty Martial God was on the line. He would really go crazy if he didn't go to the scene to see it. To everyone's surprise, Kiyu Ya did not get angry when faced with this request. After thinking for a moment, she said, "Okay, the training will be suspended for now and will be doubled at night. I also want to watch this battle between the Almighty Martial God." Schiller and Anderson's eyes widened and they couldn't believe what their ears were hearing. This is the first time that the captain has suspended training due to a battle in the virtual spirit world. And because of a cannon fodder section? When Sugu entered the martial arts dojo, before the matching started, people were already crowding into the auditorium one after another. There were more than 100,000 spectators, and almost 80,000 people were packed into it. This was just a 1-minute flow of people. Ma Mingjia looked at this situation and let out a proud laugh. Sugu's popularity today is completely different from when he first arrived, when he was the only one standing in the audience to cheer him on. Sugu looked at this scene with a wry smile. It's getting more and more exaggerated. After sighing, he ignored the matter and entered the arena to start matching. And the moment Sugu started to match, a projected portrait was reflected in the air. The face of a young man wearing a floral shirt, with a tuft of hair on his head dyed fluorescent green, and some stubble on his face appeared in front of everyone. As soon as he appeared, he shouted in a rough voice. "Viewers, did you miss me? I am your favorite commentator, sorry. Today's battle of the popular player Almighty Martial God will be narrated by me." The extremely eye-catching shape immediately caught everyone's attention. People in the audience pointed at the projection on the sky and started talking. Obviously this commentator who calls himself Sao Rui has a certain reputation. The almighty martial gods game is actually being commented on? Is this the first time that the cannon fodder segment is being commented on? How could it be this guy? Saori has such a venomous mouth. When he was commentating on the elite segment, a player was so angry that he wanted to beat him offline. Looking at the bunch of fluorescent hairs on this guy's head, I feel very angry for no reason. There was a lot of discussion around him, and Ma Mingjie naturally noticed the figure in the sky. He poked the coquettish assassin next to him with his elbow and said, "Is this your relative? What a ghost relative." This is the explanation. The coquettish assassin rolled his eyes. Since the last time the two met, when Ma Mingjie invited the coquettish assassin to join the House of the God of War, they gradually became familiar with each other. Originally a coquettish assassin with a background in self-media, he helped Ma Mingjie a lot in the early stages of the website. Cao Sai even has the identity of an administrator on the website of Martial God House. Associating a commentator for the battles of popular figures to popularize martial arts knowledge to the public is a traditional art. It's just that in general competitions with commentary, the brave stage is relatively rare, and usually only appears in the elite stage. This is the first time I have seen a commentator come out to explain the game in the cannon fodder section. It seems that the almighty God of War defeated the anonymous Anderson last time, which made him a little out of the circle. As the coquettish assassin explained, he looked enviously at the back of Sugu, who was matching his opponent in the arena. As a self-media person like him, he tried his best to get out of the circle, but the other party actually did it without knowing it. The gap between people is really bigger than that between people and dogs. After hearing this, Ma Mingjie was filled with excitement. Popularity means traffic, and traffic means money. He has little interest in martial arts, but he loves money. However, he suddenly thought of Sugu's injuries and felt a little bit sour again. I hope Brother Su can match up with a weaker opponent today. Ma Mingjie prayed silently in his heart. After receiving applause and abuse from the audience, Sari, who was sitting in the commentary box, set his sights on the person he was going to explain today. This is the almighty God of War. His eyes looked back and forth on Sugu. Cao Rui had done his homework before coming to commentate and watched the opponent's 2 battle videos more than 10 times, but watching it live today was a different feeling. At this moment, Sugu stood quietly in the arena, silently waiting for his opponent. His eyes were calm, as if the noise around him had nothing to do with him. Ignoring other things, he does have the demeanor of a powerful warrior. Cao Rui nodded secretly and said in his heart. But his pursuit of martial arts is not that pure. Otherwise we wouldn't use random weapons to attract attention in battles. We wouldn't immediately set up a website after a game to try to convert fans. In Sari's view, the almighty martial god is a warrior with merchant attributes. The method of random weapons is not much different from using various extraordinary methods to gain access to high-ranking anchors. But there is nothing wrong with him doing this. After all, there are only a few people who can reach the top of martial arts. It is human nature to want to use their martial arts to gain more fame and money. Cao Rui chuckled. He had explained the elite battle, so naturally he still had some perspective. He quickly defined the object of this explanation. Sugu, who was in the arena, suddenly opened his closed eyes, focusing on his right front. This time the opponent came, and a fiery red portal appeared in the arena. Looking at this color, the audience felt their hearts skip a beat, and then there was a burst of excitement. Red represents the brave section. After 2 battles, the almighty martial god can truly match his opponent in the brave stage. Although after defeating Anderson in the last battle, everyone understood that the almighty martial god had the potential to hit the brave level. But no one thought that this day would come so quickly. Within 2 battles, I was matched with players who surpassed my own rank. It seems that the battle between almighty God of War and Anderson raised the system's estimate of his strength to a higher level. Sari explained with a smile. At the same time, he felt a little sad about the almighty martial god's misfortune. Using ingenious fighting methods would naturally attract people's attention and become popular. But that premise is that you have to win. The winner is the king, the loser is the clown. In Cao Rui's view, there is no room for the almighty martial god to use random weapons again against his opponent in the brave stage. Unless he wants to be the Joker, he should stop using his signature random weapons at the beginning of this battle. It seems that the fans who came to watch the almighty God of War today will be disappointed. The cannon fodder section versus the brave section is a leapfrog challenge. Anyone with a slightly normal mind should not use those random weapons again. However, the fact that the second battle triggered a cross-level battle is enough to show that the system has affirmed the ability of the almighty martial god. Cao Rui first gave the almighty martial god a step down, which was regarded as helping him regain his respect and forming a good relationship. After all, he is a novice, and as an experienced commentator, he has to take care of a few things. Then, he was angrily criticized by a few fans of the almighty martial god. Damn it, the almighty martial god has not even begun to fight, and you are here to badmouth me. Sorry. You're going to eat shit for the rest of your life. Thieves, let me tell you, our god of war is invincible and cannot be defeated by anyone. Cao Rui chuckled. He had long been used to being sprayed, and a dead pig was not afraid of being scalded by boiling water. The fluorescent hair on his head trembled, and then his eyes and Sugu looked at the second person who appeared in the arena. At this time, the red light curtain dissipated and the figure appeared. Sugu glanced over, slightly surprised. This time the opponent did not hide his face and appeared in the martial arts dojo using his original appearance. Male, visually estimated to be around 20 years old, tall and burly, with tendons all over his body. But the most impressive thing is his square face that has no expression and looks like a robot. It's actually him. Anderson looked a little surprised, and then explained to Kyuya and Schiller beside him. His name is Arnold, and he is a warrior on Earth. It's different from the path of the berserker that I took, which was to increase the destructive power to the limit. Arnold is a force-defending warrior who emphasizes both strength and defense. He is my old rival in the brave section. Because the soul power fluctuations are the most balanced, warriors have the highest plasticity among all professions. Berserker, force-sensitive warrior, force control warrior. The combat performance of different warrior types is completely different. At the same time, information about Arnold's real world was also revealed by Sari. A fourth-year student from Kaiyang Martial Arts University from Earth. He is also the captain of their university team. He won the title of the best warrior in the regional university last year, with a winning rate of 63% in the Brave division. The biggest characteristic of this fighter is his stability. Arnold will never underestimate any opponent he is matched with. He will try his best in every match. Once the balance of victory tilts to his side, he will not give up. The opponent made a comeback at every turn. When a martial artist develops a strong personal fighting style, he will no longer be able to hide his personal information in the martial arts dojo. The warrior's fighting posture is easier to recognize than his face. In the arena, Sugu looked at Arnold, and Arnold was also sizing up his opponent this time. He directly ignored the opponent's position break. Since the system caused the two to collide, it proved that the two could fight based on their recent record. There is no point in judging your opponent based on their rank. It's not his real name, it looks like it's an account he just registered a while ago. There were so many viewers at the scene, and it seemed that they were all here for him. Could it be that he was a famous anchor, relying on his unique skills to qualify for the Brave stage? When Arnold kept making guesses and judgments about his opponent's identity, he suddenly noticed the opponent's ID. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed slightly. Almighty God of War? The all-powerful warrior who defeated Anderson? The muscles in Arnold's entire body contracted suddenly, and his eyes widened, as if a beast was about to start hunting. Sugu stood with his hands behind his back, facing Arnold's attack. His whole body was still extremely relaxed. He didn't seem to feel any pressure from his opponent. According to the usual rules of martial arts dojos, when low-level people challenge high-level people, they can first choose weapons and battlefield environment. Sari said with a professional smile. Judging from the two battles of the almighty martial god, he can fight both force-sensitive warriors and defensive heavy-duty warriors. His fighting style is extremely changeable. Heavy shield and black gold sword are his two first choices for weapons. I hope he can choose the different blood black gold sword to bring us a hearty attack and killing between warriors. Cao Rui is indeed a professional commentator. He aroused the interest of the audience with just a few words, and the audience began to burst into heated discussions. This bitch Cao Rui is right this time. Facing such an opponent, I think the next best tactical choice for the almighty martial god is to use a long sword and rely on his agility advantage to perform a wandering kite on Arnold. To be more prudent, it would be better to use a heavy shield. I'm afraid that brother martial god may not be able to withstand Arnold's strength. I can't bear it. Have you forgotten the last battle? How did Brother Wushan crush the werewolf? The next moment, the discussion in the audience stopped abruptly. Sugu is still the same, with random weapons and random battlefields. Two huge illusory turntables began to rotate in the arena. The skillful operation gave people a feeling of being familiar with the road. Watching the two turntables spinning at high speed, the audience fell into a brief silence. Ma Mingjia had bursts of sweat on his face. Brother Su, your injury is not healed yet. Is it really okay for you to still play like this? After silence, the atmosphere in the entire arena suddenly became heated with Sugu's move. Brother Martial God is mighty. No matter what rank he is, we will do it. Don't make blind suggestions when commenting. You may understand the commentary, but how can you understand Brother Wu Shen? This is what Brother Wu Shen did when he debuted. No one can stop him from making such a fuss before a battle, not even the brave warriors. Listening to the shouts directed at him, Cao Rui's face became a little ugly, but the ugly look was immediately restrained by his facial expression management. He looked at Sugu's back and showed a faint sarcastic smile. Okay, let's play like this, right? It seemed that I had misjudged this all-powerful god of war. He was closer to a businessman than a warrior. Until now, he was still betting that luck would give him a handy weapon. Defeat your opponents and get the big one. I want to see if your luck can really stay this good. Damn it, this guy actually treats random weapons as a routine operation. Anderson was in the audience, looking at the spinning frisbee in front of the almighty god of war with a complicated expression on his face. He recalled some painful memories from a few days ago. Isn't this man crazy? He ran away from a mental hospital? He got the idea of a god of war. He really thinks he is a god of war. Schiller couldn't help complaining. Listening to the complaints of his two team members, Kyuya held his chin and looked at the almighty martial god's choice with a thoughtful expression on his face. Nearly 700 years have passed since mankind discovered martial arts and supernatural powers in the Dark Ages. The division of martial arts combat professions has been verified by countless powerful warriors in the past 600 years, and is the path to the highest level. And now someone actually starts to challenge the history of human martial arts? Is this a genius, or crazy? She gave up training at the Stark family today and came here to take a look to confirm this. Keiwa looked at Sugu, who was standing with his hands behind his back, watching the two roulette wheels spinning at high speed. A faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, hoping not to disappoint me. Luck may be by your side for a while, but you can't have it forever. The almighty martial god will soon understand that this kind of little trick played by the cannon fodder section is courting death when played against the brave section. I hope today's failure can make him remember a little longer. If we start over from the beginning, he will be an excellent warrior. After Cao Rui's impression of Sugu dropped to the freezing point, he became more and more rude in his words. And his words were naturally booed by many fans of the almighty martial god. Facing many doubts, Cao Rui looked extremely confident. He believed in his judgment as a commentator for so many years. From the moment the almighty god of war began to choose random weapons and random battlefields, the balance of victory began to tilt toward Arnold. Soon, the first roulette wheel in front of Sugu began to stop spinning. The pointer was selected, confirming the battlefield of both sides this time. Airspace Arena. This battlefield environment is a death-fighting platform suspended thousands of meters in the air with no obstructions. Spectators who are afraid of heights can go out in advance, otherwise they may pee their pants when the arena environment is transformed. Sari looked at the selected battlefield, explained it in a timely manner, and made a joke to the audience. As he spoke, the battlefield environment had begun to transform. The platform where Sugu and Arnold were standing seemed to be climbing upwards, getting closer to the sky. When the battlefield was completely transformed, it seemed that the two of them could reach out and touch the clouds. Seeing such a battlefield environment, those fans of the almighty god of war began to get a little excited. There is no blockage or any obstacles, which is perfect for heavy equipment and warriors. Aren't these two the specialties of Brother Wushan? As long as he can choose these two weapons, he can win this battle with certainty. At this time, the speed of the other weapon selection turntable in front of Sugu had begun to slow down. The audience in the auditorium looked at the slowly slowing turntable and prayed silently in their hearts. The turntable stopped. Looking at the weapon pointed by the turntable pointer, everyone felt their hearts skip a beat. It was like a pistol. Soul-gathering pistol. Looking at this choice, Kyuya and Schiller, as long-range warriors, showed a playful smile at the same time. Bang! After the turntable dissipated, the picture above turned into reality. A pistol that looked like a toy fell at Sugu's feet. Looking at this weapon option, those fans of the almighty god of war in the audience suddenly stopped cheering for him as if they were given a basin of cold water. Puff! Sari couldn't help but let out a burst of laughter, which echoed in the silent arena. He is a professional commentator and usually won't laugh unless he really can't help it. He finally suppressed his laughter, then looked at the situation in the arena and said in a teasing tone, "The almighty martial god overturned the cart with this random weapon. The soul-gathering pistol is an entry-level weapon for long-range warriors, and its attack power is extremely weak. The only praiseworthy thing is that it allows novices to shoot multiple times to practice accuracy without pressure, so the rate of fire is good and the consumption is relatively low. But if anyone wants to hold a soul-gathering pistol and wrestle with a powerful force warrior in an arena without any obstructions. My assessment is that the old woman got into bed and made me laugh. The bullets fired from this thing probably won't be able to break through Arnold's defense." Sari showed his true colors and began to explain with venomous tongue. In response to this situation, the faces of Almighty God of War fans turned red, but they could not speak harshly anyway. The most uncomfortable thing in the world is when you are disgusted by someone, and suddenly realize that you don't know how to refute because you know what the other person said is right. The destructive power of a single bullet in the soul-gathering pistol is not as good as that of the large-caliber gunpowder gun in ancient times. This is a force-defending warrior that can handle both destructive power and defense. Even as fans, they couldn't imagine the scene of the almighty martial god's victory. We must believe in the almighty god of war, who can create miracles. Ma Mingjia looked a little pale when he saw the current situation. As the webmaster of the Martial Godhouse website, he shouted slogans to the fans behind him. In fact, he feels a little unsure now. He looked at the live broadcast equipment behind him and gritted his teeth, wondering whether I should stop the live broadcast. That's a good analysis. Keiwa, who was standing high up, nodded after listening to Sao Rui's explanation. Although it was a bit vulgar, professionally speaking, what he said was fine. Such an environment and such weapons are indeed extremely detrimental to the almighty god of war. Does the almighty martial god really have no winning points? Anderson said through gritted teeth. If this time comes, he will be very unwilling to see the person he wants to defeat easily fall into the hands of others. Judging from the battle with you, the almighty martial god's melee ability is very good. He can learn from you and throw away his pistol to fight Arnold in melee. Of course, the chances of winning in this way are very slim. It is really irrational to stick to Arnold, a force-defying warrior. I guess you also have a deep understanding of this. After hearing this, Anderson sighed irritably. He had fought against Arnold many times in the Brave section. The fighters fought hand to hand, and Anderson lost more than he won. This is also one of the opportunities for him to develop long-range abilities and broaden his martial arts path. He really couldn't imagine that someone could kill Arnold with his bare hands. Are you sure you want to use this thing to fight me? In the arena, Arnold calmly watched a series of operations by the almighty martial god, with a cold expression on his face, showing no emotion. After learning about Anderson's defeat, he carefully studied the battle videos of the opponents who defeated him. The almighty martial god's little trick of trying to manipulate his opponent's mentality before a fight was completely useless to him. This question was just because he didn't want to fight a boring battle. Sugu picked up the soul-gathering pistol and tried to inject soul power into it. After feeling and adapting to the weapon, he glanced at Arnold again, as if to confirm something. Then he nodded and said in a calm tone, "That's enough." Arnold smiled. He had seen many people who liked to pretend, and in the end, he cured them all without exception. He opened the weapon bar and immediately selected the weapon that he had already pressed the confirmation button in his mind. An exaggerated long-handled battle axe fell down, and the double moon axe, which was larger than a human chest, hit the ground, denting a small pit. Arnold pulled out the tomahawk that was a head taller than him and waved it casually. His relaxed posture was like dancing a plastic toy. Looking at Arnold's choice of weapons, Saori whistled easily. The Axe of Defense, this is the name of the weapon chosen by Arnold. In addition to its sharpness, this battle axe also has a special ability. Once soul power is injected into it, it can generate an energy shield to protect the body. The classic tactic used by long-range warriors to defeat melee warriors is to shoot soul bullets at high frequency to prevent the warriors from getting closer, and then wait for opportunities to find loopholes and seek counterattacks. And Arnold's choice directly blocked this tactic completely. It can be foreseen that in the next battle, Arnold will hold a giant axe and keep chasing the almighty martial god, and the almighty martial god will attack Arnold. The attack is of no use. When he said this, Sari's mood began to rise a little, and he said excitedly, "This is the choice a mature warrior should make. No matter what the opponent looks like, he will go all out to take it seriously. It is most appropriate for him to give almighty martial god the first defeat in his martial arts career. This will definitely teach him a profound lesson." Sari's words echoed throughout the auditorium of the arena, and the faces of the almighty martial god's fans turned a little pale. It was different. The opponent that Brother Wushan encountered in this battle was really different from the previous two. The coquettish assassin in the first game is an eye-catching anchor. When the battle started, he was still thinking about finding material from the opponent. Anderson was indeed strong enough in the second game, but the trumpet played by others was for practicing skills. The weapon he chose was a long-range firearm, not the weapon he was best at. Compared to Brother Wushan, he is inherently at a disadvantage. But this time, the Arnold he met, damn it, he was worthy of being a brave man. He was too steady and didn't give Brother Wushan a chance. "Why are you being cowardly? The fight hasn't started yet. I believe in your martial god brother, he is a man who can create miracles." Feeling the depressed atmosphere, Ma Mingjia roared, "Brother Wushan, go ahead and K him hard." But this time, there were far fewer people roaring with Ma Mingjia. It seems that even the temperature has dropped a few degrees. When the arena completes the environmental transformation, the warriors in the arena can no longer hear the sounds in the audience. Both sides have completed the selection of weapons, and now the fight to the death has begun. Standing in the airspace arena, Arnold looked at Sugu and asked plainly, "Let me ask you one last time, are you sure you don't want to admit defeat?" Boom! What responded to him was the bullet fired by Sugu. Sugu raised his gun and fired so fast that many people only saw an afterimage when he raised his hand. B-level combat skills, gun drawing skills. As he raised his hand, the soul bullet accurately hit Arnold's heart. Fast, accurate and ruthless. Arnold lowered his head and looked at the soul bullet fired by the opponent, burning a small circular hole in his uniform. Nothing happened to the exposed bronze skin except a slight redness. The almighty martial god's shot, apart from causing no damage at all, can be said to be perfect, Cao Rui joked. Seeing such a scene, those fans of the almighty martial god all felt a sense of despair. The opponent didn't even open the energy shield of the defensive axe, and could offset the bullets fired by the almighty martial god by relying solely on the body's soul defense. "What are you using to fight? Are you tickling me?" Arnold looked at Sugu and said with a sneer. He could not dodge that shot. After that blow, he had determined that the opponent's weapon could not cause any harm to him. The next thing to do is to end the battle quickly. He won't be bothered by mistakes like Anderson's. He will use all his strength from the beginning and will not give the almighty martial god any chance to breathe. Let me tell you, this is how real men fight. B-level advanced combat skill, Gang Chi step. B-level superpower, power doubled. High proficiency combat skills and level B abilities are simultaneously superimposed on Arnold's legs. The superposition of the two forces exploded at an astonishing speed. The clumsy-looking force warrior seemed to teleport at this moment and appeared in front of Sugu in the blink of an eye. The battle axe, which was bigger than Sugu's head, slashed diagonally towards his body from top to bottom without mercy. Facing the tomahawk that was attacking him, Sugu stepped lightly and took several steps back to avoid the attack. Boom! The battle axe in Arnold's hand hit the ground of the arena heavily with a force that seemed to tear the heavens and the earth apart. Amid a roar, a large crater appeared on the ground. After the arena floating in the sky withstood the blow, it began to sway as if the boat had been hit by wind and waves. This guy's power is much greater than the last time we fought, and his speed is also much faster, Anderson said with emotion as he watched Arnold swing the axe. Then he turned his attention to the almighty martial god. Arnold's earth-shattering blow shook the entire venue, but Sugu stood on the undulating ground and seemed not to be affected at all. His hands seemed to be welded with iron, holding the soul-gathering pistol steadily and maintaining a shooting posture. Bang, bang! The muzzle of the gun was spitting out tongues of fire, and Sugu began to shoot continuously and return the favor. But at this time, Arnold's defensive axe emitted a soft light, covering the surface of his body with a yellow honeycomb-shaped energy shield. The soul bullet hit the energy shield, and the shield rippled, and then the bullet dissipated without causing any damage. It seems that our little martial god really won't shed tears until he sees the coffin, and won't give up until he reaches the Yellow River. His weapons have been targeted by Arnold from beginning to end. Not to mention that toy gun is covered by Arnold's soul power. Even the energy shield on his body cannot be broken. As for the toy gun in the hands of the almighty god of war, the double-layer defense on Arnold's body is absolute defense. Sari looked at the situation and said with a smile, "Everything happening in the arena now is exactly as he expected before the game. Next, the almighty martial god will be suppressed to death. In this battle, I can almost make a judgment now. Arnold will win." When Sari finished explaining, Arnold charged forward again with his tomahawk. This time Sugu didn't dodge. He stood still and continued shooting. Straight shot gun, arc gun, trick gun, jump gun. Bullets were fired at the rushing Arnold from various unimaginable angles. This may be the only advantage of the soul-gathering pistol. In order to facilitate novices to practice multiple times at a distance, its attack frequency is very high. As long as you can withstand the recoil of the gun and provide a steady stream of soul power, you can always use it to fire continuously. Obviously Sugu only had one pistol, but relying on this, he felt like a hail of bullets. But unfortunately, the intensive bursts of fire were completely blocked by the energy shield. The seemingly gorgeous soul bullets poured out and could not even stop Arnold's attack. The warrior once again completed the close-range attack, and the violent battle axe was like a meat grinder, crushing towards the almighty martial god. Boom, 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 boom. Facing the opponent's violent blow, Sugu abandoned his concentration and used the steps he had recently learned. A-level combat skills, variable frequency steps. To the surprise of everyone present, this time the almighty god of martial arts did not try to take advantage of his body skills to open up a position. Relying on a great pace, Sugu went back and forth under Arnold's axe, narrowly escaping the opponent's attack each time. At the same time, he did not stop pouring soul bullets. At close range, the high-frequency soul power bullets even caused streams of light visible to the naked eye to rise between the two people. Being able to make such a high-quality counterattack from a long range while being approached by a warrior is truly amazing. But in the audience, the fans of Almighty God of War became more and more desperate. In the first two battles, when Brother Wu Shen fell into a disadvantage, he would immediately reverse the disadvantage with devastating means. But this time is different. It seems that no matter what you do, you can't prevent the opponent's defense from being broken. This gorgeous attack is like a counterattack, like a moth flying into a flame. At least the long-range skills of this all-powerful god of war are indeed much better than our Anderson, Schiller joked easily. Anderson rolled her eyes at him. There is no need to watch the next battle. The almighty martial god's pace is indeed exquisite, but he has to maintain his pace to avoid attacks while maintaining stable shooting under high pressure. Dual tasking can lead to fatal flaws at any time. But Arnold's side is completely different. He only needs to consider one thing: attack, attack or attack. He will only become more and more accustomed to the strange pace of the almighty martial god, and it is only a matter of time before his attacks cause damage. This is another boring battle in which the warriors get up close and then slaughter the people from a distance. Boom! Just as Anderson expected, Arnold's battle axe struck horizontally in a direction that the almighty martial god could not avoid. Seeing that Su Jiyu couldn't dodge, he could only twist his body to minimize the damage. Bump! The collision between flesh and weapon made a muffled sound that made people's teeth hurt. In an instant, Sugu changed from being cut by the axe blade to being slapped by the back of the axe. But the collision between his body and the weapon still caused him to be sent flying directly. Sugu stamped his feet hard on the ground. Under the huge impact force, his feet plowed a deep depression in the ground. The body was always on the edge of the airspace arena before it could be controlled, just one step away from falling into the abyss. The injury from the martial arts thousand-layered tower still had some impact. Otherwise it was just an axe, and it wouldn't be like this. Sugu coughed slightly, and a line of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth on the ground. The almighty martial god's final counterattack has ended. The balance of victory has completely tilted towards Arnold. This battle is almost over. Sari's voice echoed in the arena, and the fans of Almighty God of War were silent. Some people covered their eyes and did not want to continue watching, and some people had already left the venue early. Yeah, it's almost done. A smile appeared on Kiwa's face. She looked at Arnold, the almighty martial god's opponent, with a hint of sympathy on her face. Fighting against such a level of long range, I'm afraid that after this battle ends, he will be autistic for a long time. Now in the entire arena, she is probably the only one who understands what the almighty martial god just did. Feel the pungent taste of blood in your throat, and the excitement of wandering between life and death just now. The light in Sugu's eyes became brighter and brighter, like a beast stimulated by blood, his eyes full of excitement. Arnold looked at his opponent, feeling the fighting spirit in his eyes that had not yet been extinguished, and nodded slightly. Not bad, indeed a qualified warrior. But the outcome of this battle has been determined since you chose that toy gun. It's impossible for your bullet to hit me, Arnold said coldly. Stop resisting needlessly, let's end this boring battle. After listening to his opponent's words, Sugu smiled, pointed to his heart, and said calmly, I will shoot the next bullet here. Faced with his opponent's provocation, Arnold snorted coldly. Pretend to be a ghost. Arnold rushed forward again, he wanted to end this not-so-interesting battle. Sugu raised his hand, but this time he did not fire frequently. Instead, he fired a shot casually. Compared with the previous attack, this bullet seemed extremely casual. But when this randomly shot bullet hit the energy shield of the Guardian Axe, it quickly disappeared without creating a ripple. The energy shield seemed to have become a trampoline pressed down by heavy objects, and it began to sink and sink again. Finally, the tension of the energy shield seemed to have reached its limit. Bump! With a crisp sound, the honeycomb-shaped energy shield was shattered by the shot, and golden fragments of soul power scattered in the air. In Arnold's incredible eyes, the soul bullet still hit that position. When the fight between the two began, the first bullet from the almighty martial god was shot in the heart. Look, I'm hit. Sugu's face was filled with a bright smile, as if he had completed some game achievement and was looking for someone to show off. Arnold injected his soul power into the defensive axe again, but the defensive axe did not move at all. It seemed that the device that activated the energy shield was really destroyed by that bullet? How on earth did he do it? Arnold looked at Sugu not far away, with strong fear in his eyes. Being powerful is not scary, what is scary is the unknown. He stopped his hasty assault and began to confront Sugu Yao Yao. At the same time, he kept replaying that seemingly random shot in his mind, trying to find the secret to breaking the energy shield. The audience in the auditorium looked at the shattered energy shield, and everyone was silent for a moment. Things that Arnold, who had been in a fighting state, didn't understand, they naturally didn't understand even more. They don't understand what happened, why the defense that the almighty martial god couldn't break through with 1,000 direct shots can now be solved with one bullet. The almighty god of war is awesome. Ma Mingjia stood up from the audience with his face flushed and shouted at the top of his lungs. From the very beginning of the battle, he was suffocated by the oppressive atmosphere of this battle. Now seeing his brother destroy the tortoise opposite him with one shot, he felt an indescribable feeling of joy in his heart. Although he didn't understand how Sugu did it, he didn't understand, so it didn't stop him from calling 666. With Ma Mingji's shout, the Wuxian fans who had been extremely depressed from the beginning were immediately given a shot in the arm. Then everyone followed suit. Brother Martial God is awesome. I admit that I doubted Brother Martial God for a moment in my heart just now. I am guilty. Although I don't know what happened, it doesn't stop my martial god brother from being awesome. Saori, didn't you just say that our god of war brother will lose? You speak, why don't you speak now? Saori was indeed silent now. As a commentator, he had to explain to the audience what had just happened in time, but at this moment, he was scratching his head and didn't know how the almighty god of war did it. Is this some kind of new long-range combat technique that he doesn't know about? It's impossible. No matter what combat skill, the cornerstone of its power is soul power. Otherwise you won't be able to complete the release of the combat skill. How could such a weak soul bullet fired from a soul-gathering pistol penetrate the energy shield? This was the first time in this battle that Sari was silent. It's no wonder that no one knows what happened. The operation of the almighty martial god requires a little imagination to understand, Keiwa said calmly. She looked at the back of the almighty martial god, her eyes filled with admiration. As a long-range warrior, he can get a 90-point rating from Keiwa. Schiller frowned, and then his frown slowly relaxed, and his whole face became full of shock. Although he realized it later, he finally figured out what the almighty martial god had done. Boss, what happened? Anderson swallowed and said blankly. Although he is a mad warrior, he has also practiced long range for a period of time, and there are many long-range masters around him. In this regard, Anderson thinks he has some knowledge. But what just happened on the field was still far beyond his understanding. The almighty martial god raised his gun and fired just now. What he fired was just an ordinary straight shooting gun. It didn't look like it could shoot through the energy shield. Keiwa smiled slightly and explained, actually, the principle is very simple. After metal is bent many times, metal fatigue will occur and break. As for the energy circuit of the energy shield, if it suffers multiple soul attacks in a short period of time in the core area, it will also cause the entire energy shield to collapse, disintegrate. Then she turned her gaze to Schiller, her meaning obvious, and asked him to explain. Seeing the boss's instructions, Schiller said slowly. The almighty martial god's shot at Arnold was divided into two parts. One part was a chaotic scatter. This part of the shot had no target. It was shot at Arnold's energy shield to confuse him. Thus, it concealed his true strategic intention. Having said this, he took a deep breath, as if he couldn't believe what he was going to say next. And his real strategic intention is the heart of Arnold, which is the core of the energy shield. Once it collapses, the energy shield will completely collapse. My judgment is that the soul bullets fired at Arnold's heart should be no less than 300 bullets, and the deviation of each bullet should not exceed 3 centimeters. Only in this way can the entire defensive axe be shot in a short time. To disintegration. Anderson's eyes widened after hearing Schiller's explanation. He wanted to say the word, impossible, but apart from what Schiller just said, he really couldn't seem to find a better explanation. But are there such long-range warriors in this world? Even under strong pressure after being approached by soldiers, he was still planning a very clear personal strategic intention in his mind. Then thousands of bullets were fired continuously, each bullet was under high pressure, following the master's will to complete its strategic conception, and then led to the final victory. Is this possible, Anderson? I know you want to say, impossible. But this is the only possibility I can think of. After I eliminate all possibilities one by one, the remaining one, no matter how impossible, will be the answer, Schiller said with some reluctance. As a fighter of the same profession, he felt pressure from the almighty martial god. Etc. Is almighty martial god a long-range warrior? Thinking of this, Schiller felt his teeth sore. He looked at Sugu's figure below and said to himself, this is a monster. In the arena, Arnold, who was confronting Sugu, finally couldn't hold it any longer. For warriors, sometimes courage is needed. Even if you don't understand how to do it, so what, K him. The two seemed to have agreed upon it at the same time. When Arnold started to charge forward again, the soul-gathering pistol in Sugu's hand began to pour bullets at the same time. A torrential rain of bullets poured towards Arnold, but the situation was still the same. The soul power bullets condensed by the soul-gathering pistol were too weak to cause substantial damage. In the wide area without any obstructions, Arnold quickly brought Sugu into his attack range, used the battle axe in his hand to use his combat skills, and slashed towards Sugu. But this time, there was no need to cover up their true fighting intentions with a large number of ineffective shots. Everyone felt the powerful gun control ability of the almighty martial god. Facing a close-range attack, once Arnold makes a move to attack, 7 or 8 spirit bullets will immediately be fired at Arnold's knees, shoulders, eyes, neck, etc., to disrupt his weak defenses. Attack rhythm. As soon as Arnold's attack rhythm was disrupted, Sugu immediately withdrew from his attack circle, and the cycle continued. Every time Arnold tried to swing his axe at the almighty god of war, he would suffer a blow that seemed to see through him. The synchronized movements between the two people even gave people the feeling that the almighty god of war was more familiar with Arnold's body than Arnold. When Arnold lost the protection of the energy shield, his attacks became obviously slower due to the interference of the almighty martial god. It's so accurate. His hit rate is at least 90 or more every time. I want to fight him. Schiller let out a compliment. Besides Kyuya, the almighty martial god was the first person who could admire him in long-range technology. If Arnold doesn't think of a way to break the situation, he will continue to be kited like this, and he will be consumed by the long-range weapon with the soul-gathering pistol. Hee. Schiller let out a laugh. Arnold in the arena was obviously aware of this problem, and his face, which was originally like a robot, became increasingly cold and hard. Finally, it seemed that he couldn't hold it any longer, and Yang Tian let out a roar. Arnold tried his best to activate his soul power and activate his supernatural powers. He was going to bet the victory of this battle on this one hit. 8 wasteland earth-splitting axes. Boom. With a loud roar, the long-handled double moon battle axe in Arnold's hand slammed to the ground. The ground of the entire arena began to crack, raising bursts of dust. 8 shock waves visible to the naked eye, centered on the defensive axe, tore apart the metal bricks on the gladiatorial platform and rushed towards Sugu. Sugu's eyes condensed slightly, feeling the huge power contained in each shock wave, and immediately used the frequency conversion step to avoid the first wave of attacks. And those 8 shock waves seemed to be controlled by remote control. After being avoided, they suddenly changed direction and launched a sneak attack from behind. Sugu's eyes did not move sideways, and he identified the direction and location of the attack just by listening to the sound. He was like a dragon swimming in the water, and dodged the attack again. Fans of the almighty martial god in the audience were excited as they watched the almighty martial god continue to consume the energy of the shockwave with a casual pace, playing with the opponent's life-threatening blows in the palm of his hand. As graceful as a startled dragon, like a swimming dragon. This sentence refers to the current martial god brother. Brother martial god is invincible. After Arnold launched that attack, his physical strength was almost exhausted. As long as the power of these 8 shockwaves is exhausted, brother martial god's victory can be directly declared. At this moment, these fans were in the highest mood. After experiencing the ups and downs of this battle, they finally saw the dawn of victory. You still showed your flaws. At this moment, a voice came from 5 meters away from Sugu. A figure walked out of the smoke and dust raised by the shockwave. It was Arnold. He used the smoke and noise raised by the shockwave to obscure his figure, and unknowingly approached Sugu. But now 8 shockwaves had formed an encirclement and began to move quickly towards the 2 men. The only way to escape was blocked by Arnold's body. Arnold's machine-like face showed a rare and cunning smile. He never expected the 8 desolate earth-splitting axe to end the almighty martial god. What he had to do was to get close to the almighty martial god, restrict his movement, and then meet the impact of this ultimate move with him. He is a force warrior, and the almighty martial god is a crispy man who vomited blood after eating one of his axes. At the same time, if he takes this move forcefully, his chance of survival will be much higher. Arnold, won this battle. At this moment, the expressions on everyone's faces became dull. They did not expect that Arnold could go to such a point in order to win, and he would not hesitate to use this kind of strategy of mutual destruction. Born to death, Arnold created the dawn of victory in a desperate situation. Sari looked at the situation in the arena, and in an instant, he jumped up from the commentary seat with excitement. He feels like he can do it again. Boom. 8 shock waves from different directions rushed towards Sugu like a bulldozer. He looked at Arnold, who was blocking his way. At this last moment, he still held the soul-gathering pistol and started shooting several times. Bang, bang, bang. It was still such a precise shot, and similarly, the soul bullets fired did not cause any damage to Arnold. Cao Rui saw that the almighty martial god's final counterattack had no effect, and he had already determined in his heart who the winner of this battle would be. He said quickly with his sharp tongue, "The almighty martial god has extremely solid skills as a long-range player. This is something I didn't expect before the game. But if he doesn't act so recklessly in battle, and is a little more serious and respectful when facing his opponents, maybe." But at this moment, Cao Rui's words stopped suddenly, and he noticed something was wrong. After being hit by the almighty martial god's last soul bullet, Arnold's eyes opened wide and his body froze in place. He was panting heavily, his body was like a deflated balloon, and his soul power was being continuously expelled. The body, which lost the support of soul power, began to become weak. Arnold even found it extremely difficult to hold the defensive axe. The battle axe in his hand changed from holding it with one hand to holding it with both hands. In the end, he couldn't hold his weapon and fell to the ground. Arnold stretched out his hand desperately, as if he wanted to touch the figure of the almighty god of war, but he could only hold it in vain. It's a pleasure to fight with you. Attack 3 points to the enemy and save 7 points for yourself. For the last blow, you should leave more soul power for yourself for protection. From the battle with the opponent, Sugu felt some fun and gave him some guidance. Then the pistol fired again, and Arnold, who had lost his soul protection, was exploded by a shot this time. Arnold lowered his head and looked at the spot where he was shot. Damn, it's the heart again, it's so disgusting. 8 shock waves tore apart the entire airspace arena. At the moment Arnold fell, the distance between him and Sugu was only half a meter. The shock wave raised the corners of Sugu's military uniform, and then dissipated under the influence of the powerful force of the virtual spiritual world. Winner. Almighty Martial God. Looking at the figure standing on the field, all the spectators in the martial arts dojo, including the fans of the Almighty Martial God, fell into a long silence. What on earth just happened? It was clear that Arnold was almost close to victory at the last moment, so why did his soul power dissipate at the last moment? Even the self-proclaimed commentator Sari was frowning at the moment, and he couldn't figure out what happened. After a moment of silence, there were bursts of whispers. One explanation began to circulate. Do you think it's possible because something happened to Arnold's real body in reality? You mean, because the physical body affects the actions of the conscious body? Has such a thing ever happened in the martial arts dojo? There is indeed a precedent for this, and it is very similar to Arnold's situation. The Joshin cultivation technique that was running on its own suddenly collapsed, resulting in the dissipation of soul power. The almighty martial god's luck is a bit better. The final situation just now was quite unfavorable to him. The surrounding discussions reached the ears of the 3 Stark family members watching. Luck? Anderson looked at the arena and listened to the discussion in the audience, with a sneer on his face. He had fought against all 2 warriors in this battle. There was no way that a little bit of luck could determine their outcome in the fight between the 2. Boss, what do you think? Schiller looked at Kyu-ya next to him seriously and said. I have some clues, but I'm not sure yet, Kyu-ya said with burning eyes. You both videotaped this battle. Give me the video of the battle later and I will review it myself. The battle is over, but the debate about the battle continues. Where's the commentary? Explain what Sari said. Saori replayed the almighty martial god's move dozens of times during the live broadcast. The final conclusion was that he couldn't understand it. Damn, this piece of trash. Is it because of the impact of the physical body in reality that the conscious body has an accident, so that the final winner of this battle is the almighty martial god? Or is it that the last blow of the almighty god of war had some kind of power perceived by others, defeating Arnold with one blow? There are 2 views on the video comment area related to this battle, and they are arguing like crazy. The quarrel brought heat, and the heat attracted some passers-by to come in and watch. When these people watched the battle video and joined the battlefield, the balance of the argument between the 2 parties began to tilt. I feel that those who like the almighty martial god are martial arts blind who have never been exposed to martial arts. There are too many problems with this battle, not only the last shot, but also the one that broke the energy shield. It has been confirmed through continuous replays that the bullets fired by the almighty martial god do not have penetrating powers attached to them. Fans who are blind to martial arts, please answer, how can the soul-gathering pistol bullets without attached powers break the energy shield? What's there to say about these idiots who just mindlessly follow the trend and chase after warriors who don't miss every aspect like their celebrities? Most people who subsequently watched the battle video chose to believe that the almighty god of war's victory was due to Arnold's state, rather than his own strength. Gradually, except for the various personal websites of Wushan House, Ma Mingjia maintained them peacefully. In the comment areas of major video forums, the anti-fans of almighty god of war began to gain the upper hand. Many viewers who were still wavering in the middle saw the brainwashing comments constantly flooding the screen, and the balance in their hearts gradually shifted. Could it be that, as these people said, the victory of the almighty martial god in this battle was really just luck? Damn, they are a bunch of brainless people. They can only follow the trend and shout a few words. Ma Mingjia looked at the comments on the website and cursed fiercely. Just when he was worried about this matter and trying to think of a way to deal with it. Ma Mingjie suddenly saw that the newly registered ID of Martial God House, called Kang Yu Wolf, uploaded a video. He watched the video carefully, his eyes widening as he watched it, and then immediately pinned the video to the top of the website. Soon more and more Almighty Martial God fans saw the video, and their reaction to the video was exactly the same as Ma Mingjie's. This is an analysis video of the battle with Almighty Martial God and Arnold. And extremely hardcore. The hardcore is to estimate and mark the power output and soul power fluctuation index of each attack of the opponent in the battle. It is hardcore to analyze every tactical action of both sides and analyze the purpose and battle game behind it. Holy shit, you can produce such a detailed and high-quality review video in such a short time. Many martial arts universities can't do it. Our family of martial gods still has such talent. I'd like to see who else says we are martial arts blind in the future. Brothers, how many minutes and seconds will it take for Brother Martial God to break the energy shield? And how many minutes and seconds will it take to analyze the final blow? Give me the coordinates and I will take off directly. Fans are anxious to see what the boss thinks of the most controversial part. The progress bar pulls. The close quarters battle between the Almighty God of War and Arnold was slow played at a very high magnification, and the trajectory of each bullet fired by the Almighty God of War was marked using remodeling. Everyone was shocked. This was simply a work of art. And looking at the ballistic lines marked in red that were played in slow speed, these people noticed something was wrong. Accurate, really accurate. How many shots did Brother Wushin shoot at that position? At the same time, there was a mechanical sound in the video that was indistinguishable from male to female and did not have much emotional ups and downs. Many people can only see the shot that shattered the energy shield, but they don't know that for this shot, the Almighty Martial God fired more than 300 bullets with an accuracy of no more than 3 centimeters in the same area of the energy shield as a preparation. Not to mention that in order to be able to conceal their tactical intentions, they gave up the most classic kiting tactic of long-range warriors and chose a higher-risk close combat with warriors. And in close combat, in order to prevent Arnold from noticing the bullets that have been fired towards the chest, the Almighty Martial God may need to shoot 3 to 5 bullets to induce sight for every bullet that hits the chest. Being able to do this with this kind of long-range technology, I can say that in any martial arts university, they are like a rarity. After listening to the explanation in the video, those ordinary fans finally understood how the Almighty Martial God shot through the energy shield, and they couldn't help but let out a chorus of admiration in the barrage. Damn it, Brother Wushin is really awesome. Look at the ballistic model built by Mr. Moonwolf. It's simply a work of art. Such a thing was actually improvised during a battle. I want to put the video link on other websites, and I want to see how those trolls can troll. Don't worry about those people, they are all brainless. Also, what happened to the shot that Brother Wu Shen took to defeat Arnold's body at the last moment? Some fans of Martial God's House went to other forums to post links to the video, while others pulled up the video's progress bar to watch in detail what was going on. This video came out much later than my usual review videos of training players. The most fundamental reason is the last shot. I only had some vague inspirations at the beginning, and I wasn't quite sure yet. I played it back twice before I was finally sure. While speaking, Yu Lang's mechanical voice paused for a moment, as if he felt it was a bit unbelievable that such a thing would happen to him. The skills practiced by warriors will be very different because of the different martial arts professions they have to adapt to, and it will inevitably leave behind barriers. If you attack those gates, it will have a miraculous effect. The Almighty Martial God shot the gate of Arnold's technique and defeated him in one fell swoop. After hearing this explanation, viewers of the video were a little confused. Is it that simple? When melee warriors engage in hand-to-hand combat, isn't it a basic operation to sense the opponent's shield? But then these people realized that Brother Wushin hit the door with a pistol. Is it the same difficulty to hit the door with your hands as it is to hit the door with a soul-gathering pistol? When everyone once again replayed the scene of the Almighty God of War calmly raising his gun in the face of the terrifying shockwave, they felt a sense of awe. What kind of long-range warrior is this? There seems to be something wrong. This guy's heavy equipment and his level as a fighter are also very high. When I first watched it, I also fell into a misunderstanding. There are indeed very few long-range fighters who would carry out such a weak point attack. After all, long-range warriors need to be with the firearms in their hands day after day. It is difficult to have the same sensitivity to the weaknesses of skills as melee warriors. Most of the time, Long-range warriors do not need to practice in this area. After all, it's destructive enough. This is probably an exclusive combat method that only a warrior like the almighty martial god, who can drastically cross martial arts professions, can imagine and use. It's very difficult for most people to reproduce. At the end of this video, Kang Yu Wolf ends with these words. There is not a word of nonsense in the whole process, it is all practical analysis. With the spread of the fans of Almighty God of War, it quickly became popular. Hee hee, what about those people who laugh at our Wu Shen brother fans as being martial blind? You guys should also make a video like this. Ha ha ha, don't make it difficult for them. If they had brains, they wouldn't question brother Wu Shen. Scream, why don't you shout anymore? Please shout again and I'll listen. At this time, the fans of Almighty God of War finally felt proud and repaid all the ridicules they had received before. Upon seeing this, some black haters immediately stopped and deleted their previous replies, not giving others a chance to reply. Others continued to clamor. This video came from your martial god's house. Isn't it just the personal opinion of your fans? How credible is it? Yes, we want to see how Arnold explains it. I guess Arnold, as a true warrior, doesn't have time to pay attention to the dirty tricks of these villains. Seeing that there was no way to win through rational reasoning, these people immediately began to use Arnold's identity as a banner. It has been emphasized that unilateral explanations have no credibility at all, and the victory of Almighty God of War depends on luck. These words made the God of War fans' teeth itch with anger. What a bunch of shit stirrups, touching them is as disgusting as stepping on shit. Ma Mingjia cursed angrily. Response: why should Arnold respond? Who belittles himself and elevates the status of a player who just defeated his opponent? He didn't plan to pay attention to those black men anymore. He was too lazy to do this kind of thing of betraying his supporters. Just when Ma Mingjia was about to continue working on the forum, another video was updated in the video area. He looked at the sip of water he was drinking and spit it out. Anyo really responded, or was he above our martial god's house? In the video, Arnold, with his robot-like face, mentioned the name of his opponent in a rare and extremely humble tone. Thank you to the almighty martial god for giving me some advice at the last moment of this battle. His words made me take the exam for a long time after the battle, and I gained a lot. When he said this, he spoke from the bottom of his heart. That sentence, attack 3 points to the enemy and keep 7 points for yourself, directly broke through a bottleneck where Arnold has always been. He had a hunch that when he understood the words left to him by the almighty martial god, his power would be greatly improved. Those who want to deliberately discredit the almighty martial god, I have limited abilities and cannot control you on the internet, but don't use my name, and don't let me meet you in reality. The last sentence Arnold said had a vague threatening meaning. Feeling the admiration for the almighty martial god in Arnold's words, those who were still clamoring just now completely stopped. Moon, Stark University. Anderson and Schiller looked at Kiyoya, who had stayed up all night in the training room and was still watching the almighty martial god battle video, with a somewhat complicated look on his face. Others don't know who the Kang Yu Wolf's ID is, so how could the two of them not know it? The review and analysis video that helped Almighty God of War turn around the criticism was made by the boss. But after finishing the video, why are you still staying up late watching Almighty Martial God's other battle videos? Is this their boss who has no interest in anything other than martial arts and sleeping? Keiwa pressed the pause button on the video and murmured. Sure enough, although it is very weak, after each of the 3 battles, the quality of his soul power will improve slightly. A warrior who can create his own techniques and find his own path. After finally confirming the judgment in her heart, Kiyoya yawned, and a trace of sleepiness appeared on her lazy face. Suddenly she frowned slightly, and after feeling the 2 glances from behind her, she said calmly, "Come to the training room and train quickly, or do you want me to help you train more?" After hearing this, Anderson and Schiller became excited and ran away quickly. After Kiyoya's analysis video and Arnold's clarification video came out, the grievance on the Almighty God of War was completely cleared. The video of the fight between the Almighty God of War and Arnold also started to see an explosive increase in views along with this controversy. Ma Mingjia hugs his computer every day and looks at the increasing number of users on it. He keeps saying, "I'm getting rich." According to him, this website, which was established less than half a month ago, has officially started to make profits. Also because of this battle, there were inexplicably more warriors using soul-gathering pistols in the martial arts dojo. This incident didn't last long. After getting their hands on it, these people realized how deceptive this weapon was as a long-range weapon, and the usage rate dropped again within a few days. However, because these people increasingly felt the terror of the almighty god of war, Sugu inexplicably attracted a wave of fans. It was not until a week later that the turmoil about this matter gradually subsided on the internet. As for all the turmoil that happened after the battle, Sugu, who stayed in the practice room all day, had no interest in knowing about it. After he finished that battle, he went to organize and adapt to the new Tian Yuan Gong that had been completed. Because the martial god's home website has begun to make a profit, Sugu has no shortage of money on hand. He also used the school's channels to purchase several new martial arts weapons in the training room, and his life is very smooth. In the past few days, he also used the money he earned to have a few meals with Xie Sanli, Feng Yan, and Yu Kunxiao. From them, he also learned a lot of information that he didn't know. Jingle bell bell, just when Su Jiyu had just gotten up and washed up, his cell phone rang. Looking at the caller ID, it was Yu Kunxiao, the vice chairman of the student union. After the call was connected, Yu Kunxiao's voice came out. Sugu, because you broke through the realm in advance and have not been in contact with the teacher during this period, you don't know the news yet, so the school asked me to inform you. Now most of the school's students have broken through and stabilized their academic performance, and the busiest period of the school year has passed. Next, all the freshmen of the school will have a big class in lecture room number 1. This is the first class that they must go to. Sugu spat out the mouthwash and said, "Okay, I got it." After the two chatted on the phone for a while, Yu Kunxiao couldn't help but asked, "Sugu, what kind of technique did you choose? Can you tell me a little bit about it?" Sugu is the civilian student who has spent the most resources on special recruitment at Starry Sky Martial Arts University this year. Moreover, his performance is extremely malleable. Whether he is a warrior or an assassin, he has shown extremely high talents. Yu Kunxiao was naturally very curious about the genius's martial arts route. Sugu was silent, and after a moment he said, "I haven't made a decision yet on martial arts skills, a major matter related to the path of my life. I still use Tian Yuan Gong now." After listening, it was Yu Kunxiao's turn to be silent. "Are you kidding me? After the first class of the semester is over, there will be a competition for freshmen in 3 days. Every year, the school's outstanding tutors will go to watch this event and select outstanding students. You told me to use it now. Or is it a transitional technique?" Yes, made Yu Kunxiao lose his temper. After a moment, he said feebly, "New student, I wish you good luck in martial arts." After leaving these words, he hung up the phone. In the afternoon, Sugu asked Feng Yan and Ma Mingjie to go to lecture hall number 1 for the first major class of the semester. Looking at the combination of Sugu and Feng Yan, a group of people immediately raised eyebrows. Are they Sugu and Feng Yan? One of these two people is the strongest special recruit among civilians who can kill enemies beyond the ranks, and the other is from a noble family. How do these two people get together? Two of the strongest special recruits? Why didn't we see these two people when we broke through the Seeking Me realm? Aren't you talking nonsense? One of these two is a top genius, and the other is the young head of a noble family. They have already achieved a breakthrough during the summer vacation. It is said that the school even opened the martial arts 1000-story tower in advance for them. It is estimated that the self-seeking realm techniques they practice are also top-notch techniques that we cannot imagine. Listening to the buzz around them, Sugu and Feng Yan kept looking normal, but Ma Mingjie beside them was very excited, watching the people around them saying from time to time beside Sugu and Feng Yan, "Have you seen the man with the short hair and no eyebrows? His name is Xiao Junjian, a special student of the Assassin Academy. He has been looking at you. It seems that he regards you as his opponent." There is also Wu Zhen, a special student from the distance college, and Lu Guang from the heavy equipment side. Tisk, tisk, you two really attract hatred. Fortunately, little Karami like me won't be taken into consideration. Sugu naturally felt the gazes around him, but he didn't care about them and calmly passed through everyone's sight. "Brother Su, that Zheng Lu is here too. He just glanced at you a few times." Feng Yan lowered his voice and spoke carefully to Sugu. Sugu's footsteps paused, and when he thought of this guy who wanted to kill him a few days ago, He felt a rare murderous intention in his heart. Brother Su, regarding this guy, everything you asked me to do has been settled. After this class is over, I will find an opportunity to tell you slowly. Feng Yan continued to whisper in Sugu's ear. After hearing this, Sugu secretly concealed the murderous intent in his eyes. Killing people in modern society is still very troublesome, and you have to find a suitable opportunity. The three of them randomly found a seat in the classroom and sat down. When the bell rang in the classroom, a gentle old man with square glasses and silver hair walked into the classroom. Looking at his figure, Feng Yan beside him said in surprise, "Is it Instructor Lan Qing? I didn't expect that it was him teaching us." In addition to Feng Yan's voice, there was some commotion in the classroom. Apparently this teacher was quite famous. "Who is this old man?" Ma Mingjia asked curiously. It was the first time that he saw this guy with eyes above his head, so surprised by a teacher, and he was also an old man who looked to be over 100 years old. There have been several federal generals among the students of this instructor. He is considered a living treasure of Starry Sky Martial Arts University. Feng Yan said with emotion. It is said that Instructor Lan Qing has never taught students anymore because of his old age. I originally wanted to become his disciple, but it's been a pity that I've known this news for a long time. The old mentor named Lan Qing cleared his throat and coughed. His authority immediately silenced the noisy classroom just now. He cleared his throat again and said, "Now let's start the first lesson of the school year. I didn't specially prepare the courseware for this class, or you have all seen the courseware. It's a very popular battle video in the martial arts dojo in the virtual spiritual world recently. A warrior named Almighty Martial God defeated Arnold from Kaiyang Martial Arts University head-on." After hearing this, Sugu raised his eyebrows slightly. After Lan Qing finished speaking, the battle between Arnold and the Almighty Martial God that day began to play on the 3 projection walls of the huge lecture theater. The people sitting in the lecture theater looked at the video materials of that battle with mesmerized expressions on their faces. They are all top martial arts students who have been admitted to Starry Sky Martial Arts University, a top prestigious school. They are not the many martial arts novices on the internet who have never even been exposed to martial arts and follow what everyone else says. However, the more people who have practiced martial arts, the more they can feel the terrifying martial arts skills displayed by the 2 strong men in this battle. Those special recruits sitting in the front row of the college division watched the transition between offense and defense on both sides, and many of them stared straight-eyed. They are all extremely proud people, but watching this video, they have to admit that the combat ability and combat literacy displayed by the opponent are far higher than their current capabilities. The more you look at it, the more yearning and admiration the expression on your face becomes. Sugu was watching the video with a strange expression on his face. He realized that the entire lecture theater, including Feng Yan beside him, were all staring at the video of his battle a week ago. Anyone who has used his video material and has the whole school watching and explaining will feel a little ashamed. Fortunately, his real identity has not been revealed yet. At the same time, it was also the first time that he intuitively felt the influence of the martial arts dojo in the virtual spiritual world, the most powerful simulated combat system in mankind today, in reality. Even top martial arts universities like Star Martial Arts University will choose the battles here as lesson plans for important courses. When Ma Mingjia on the side saw this, he looked at Sugu and smiled with a mean look on his face. Seeing this, Sugu rolled his eyes at the fat man. Finally, the video finished playing and many students still had unfinished expressions on their faces. Lan Qing tapped the projection wall with his wrinkled fingers, pulling the students back from their thoughts. This battle is indeed a classic among the warrior battles that took place during this period. Please, classmates, let's talk about how this battle feels to both sides. After instructor Lan Qing finished speaking, several special admission students in the front row wanted to make a good impression in front of him, so they all raised their hands. Soon, Xiao Junjian, a special recruit of the Assassin Academy, said, I think the most commendable thing in this battle is the pace of the Almighty Martial God. Facing the pressure of the Force warriors, he relied entirely on his terrifying pace to contain him. Walk. If he hadn't used his pace to contain him for enough time, he wouldn't have been able to resist the moment of the final counterattack. Xiao Junjian's words aroused agreement from everyone around him, and even Lan Qing nodded slightly. I think the most important thing in this battle is the Almighty Martial God's control over the opponent. Lu Guangdao, a special recruit of the Heavy Equipment Academy. After the whole battle, it seemed that Arnold had the upper hand most of the time, but in fact, the almighty god of war's fighting rhythm has never been disrupted. Instead, he has successfully interfered with his opponent's rhythm. This makes me, who has similar combat attributes to Arnold, even more alert. Don't you realize how terrifying the almighty martial god is with his gun? Wu Zhen, a special recruit from the Distance Academy, said, I really hope I can reach his level before I graduate. After the remaining specially recruited students expressed their opinions, they all received recognition from many people. At this time, Lan Qing glanced around, paused and said, I remember that there was a classmate named Sugu who was specially recruited today. What do you think of this battle? When the name Sugu was mentioned, everyone immediately turned their attention to him. In an instant, Sugu immediately became the focus of the audience. After feeling the gazes around him, Sugu stood up slowly. It seems that the title of Star Martial Arts University's strongest special admissions has attracted a lot of unnecessary attention to him. After standing up, Sugu thought for a moment and said, regarding this battle, the almighty martial god relied on his body's instinctive natural reaction to evade every attack from Arnold. During the battle, he should add some rational judgment to his instincts. Otherwise, if you often watch and study the almighty martial god's past battle videos, you may be able to read some of his physical habits and achieve countermeasures. After Sugu finished speaking, the eyes around him that were paying attention to him suddenly faded away a lot. And those students who had always regarded him as a competitor, who were also specially recruited, showed a trace of disdain on their faces. Training the body's response to attack into an instinct is the realm that these students have been pursuing. Now, according to Sugu's words, all the paths taken by these people are wrong. What a joke! It seems that the so-called most powerful special recruit who can kill enemies across levels is a person who likes to make some incomprehensible opinions to impress people. You can actually see this from the video. Lan Qing's surprised voice came from the podium. Everyone turned their heads when they heard Teacher Lan's voice and the affirmation of Sugu's words. Their faces showed confusion, as this student Sugu said, after you have trained your body's reaction to attacks into instinct, the next thing you have to do is to control this instinct of yours. According to the school's teaching plan, you can train your instinctive response to attacks in your sophomore year, and you will be considered an outstanding student. And controlling instinct is a difficult point that you must focus on overcoming during your junior and senior years. After hearing instructor Lan Qing's explanation, the eyes of the others looking at Sugu changed. It turns out that the reason why they couldn't understand what Sugu said before was because they didn't have enough vision. But according to instructor Lan, this is a course project that can only be accessed by sophomores. Why can Sugu see it at a glance? Could it be that he has reached such a state in advance? Everyone looked at him with even more alert eyes. Lan Qing looked at Sugu with a little surprise. Do freshman students actually have such an understanding? Judging from his information, he is a civilian with no background, so it is impossible that he was informed in advance by the martial arts elders at home. Did he realize this on his own? It seems that the school has indeed found a treasure this year. But when Lan Qing thought about it again, the expression on his face became weird again. Such a student is still using the transitional skill, Tian Yuan Gong. What on earth is he thinking? Does he not care about the upcoming freshman competition at all? This made Lan Qing unusually curious about a student. In class, when Sugu sat down, Lan Qing began to break down the skills and defenses of both sides and explain them in detail. From time to time, this excellent instructor would share some insightful insights into martial arts, and even Sugu listened with gusto. From time to time in the class, someone peeked over to where Sugu was, sizing up this special recruit who could kill enemies at higher levels in the martial arts exam and who had just been praised by instructor Lan Qing. From time to time, people were whispering, guessing what kind of technique he chose and how he applied for the command department. Brother Su, let's go to dinner together. I still have some martial arts questions that I want to ask you about. Of course Brother Ma will come too, and I'll treat you to this meal. After the first class of the freshmen ended, Feng Yan said to Sugu and Ma Mingjia. Generally speaking, Feng Yan would not take a serious look at people like Ma Mingjia who were at a lower level of martial arts than him. But since he knew that he and Sugu could be brothers, he immediately looked up to him and started calling him Brother Ma. Okay, Brother Su, go quickly. When I was in high school, I was always the one who was taken advantage of, and now there is finally a new one. Ma Mingjia said with a smile as soon as he heard that someone was treating him. Seeing that the two of them had settled down, Sugu smiled and nodded and said, "Okay, let's get together." After the first lesson of the semester ended, there was a burst of arguing in the school instructor's work building. "What are you talking about? Sugu didn't choose any exercises. Are you kidding me?" Jia Sanli stood in front of Yu Kunxiao and asked loudly, as if he couldn't believe what he just heard. Yu Kunxiao smiled bitterly and said, "Teacher Xie, why did I lie to you? Why? Why is this?" Jia Sanli couldn't figure it out. Could it be that Sugu had been coming to Shinkong Martial Arts University for so long and no one had taught him the importance of the freshman competition? Many excellent instructors in the school will come to observe the students' battles and select students. Why doesn't Sugu pay so much attention to it and doesn't even change the transition technique now? Although he is the best among the freshmen this year, it does not mean that other students are trash. Which student who can be admitted to the Starry Sky Martial Arts University was not the top talent in a city before coming here? And even if you perform well in the self-cultivation realm, you have already entered the self-seeking realm by participating in the freshman competition. Now that a whole realm has passed, everyone has begun to practice the exercises. What do you want to do with your broken Tian Yuan Gong? Actually, the reason should be very simple. At this moment, a female teacher wearing black work clothes and neat short hair came over and said, "She is Qian Lu, last year's outstanding youth instructor at Shinkong Martial Arts University. I have also heard about this student Sugu. It is undeniable that his performance in the martial arts test in high school was indeed excellent, but excellence in high school is a different matter in college." After hearing these words, Jia Sanli's face looked slightly confused, and then he asked for advice. "Teacher Qian, may I ask if you have any advice? It's very simple. Once many high school students are admitted to the university of their choice, they think that their lives are complete. Instead, they will waste their time and their excellent talents in the subsequent college career with a vengeance. I think Sugu is like this. Otherwise, it would be difficult to understand why he applied for the command department, and it is even harder to understand why he has not chosen his own method until now." After hearing what Teacher Lan said, Jia Sanli and Yu Kunxiao began to recall their experience with Sugu. In their memories, both of them were deeply impressed by Sugu's pursuit of martial arts. So they protested. "But Sugu, according to our contact with him, Sugu is definitely not such a person." "That's right, even if school has not officially started yet, he is technically still on vacation, and Sugu's training time is no different from that in high school. Such students are definitely not what you said, Teacher Qian, who give up on martial arts, people." Seeing the vice president of the student union and the teacher from the admissions office retorting to her at the same time, Qian Lu had a trace of doubt on her face. Could it be that she had really made a mistake? It is said that Feng Yan and Sugu have become very close in the past few days. Could it be that Sugu has decided to join the family, so he can delay his conversion of skills so that he will not steal Feng Yan's skills in the freshman competition? Limelight? Qian Lu frowned and raised another possibility. This shouldn't be. After hearing this, the expression on Jia Sanli's face became a little stiff. Could it be that the students they had worked so hard to recruit decided to follow the aristocratic family in such a short period of time? But this situation seems to happen every year. The family would invest the scarce resources needed by the warriors in school in exchange for some small favors. Is this the case with Sugu? Actually, I saw Feng Yan and Sugu coming out of the 1,000-story martial arts tower before, and Feng Yan's behavior was more like that little Kurami. Yu Kunxiao recalled the situation that day and weakly interjected. "Two teachers, is it possible that these two people get together, and Feng Yan is the younger brother?" After Yu Kunxiao finished speaking, he was immediately glared at by the two teachers. Qian Lu looked at him as if he were an idiot and said, "Do you know that among all the families our school comes into contact with, the Feng family is the most arrogant? What's more, Feng Yan is the young head of the Feng family, and he is also a special admission student in the school. What he has, it's only a lot more than Sugu. Why do you think he should be Sugu's little brother?" Xie Sanli also shook his head and said, "Sugu is a commoner without any power. The conflict between commoners and those aristocratic families in the competition for educational resources has become increasingly acute. Among them, Feng Yan is the representative of the family this year and the strongest one. I can understand that these two people have similar interests when they come together. Do you think Feng Yan is impressed by Sugu? Absolutely not. This is possible. After hearing the two teachers' categorical rejection, the expression on Yu Kunshao's face became a little confused. Could it be that I really made a mistake? After I came out of the 1,000 layers of martial arts pagoda that day, were those things all my misunderstandings? There must be a mistake. Brother Su, little brother, let me toast you. Now in Feng Yan's dormitory, he directly asked the housekeeper who was responsible for his daily life to pack up a large bag of star-rated dishes to entertain Sugu and Ma Mingjia. Ma Mingjia immersed himself in the meal, his mouth full of oil. Feng Yan and Sugu chatted while eating, and Feng Yan kept asking Sugu questions about martial arts. Su Jiyu has been practicing hard on his own for many years. Now that he meets peers who can keep up with his own ideas, he is naturally happy to share them. Feng Yan talked with Sugu, and the more he talked, the more frightened he became. There were many problems that I couldn't solve even if I asked my elders in the family. Sugu gave me a few random words, and I immediately became enlightened. He even felt that the barriers that had stuck him for a long time were showing signs of loosening. As a result, his attitude towards Sugu became more and more respectful. When the two of them were chatting happily, the smile on Sugu's face suddenly faded, then he said, "Feng Yan, how did you do with the things I asked you to do?" After hearing Sugu's question, Feng Yan's expression became serious. He subconsciously looked around, and then used his mobile phone to project an image stereoscopically. The image clearly showed a man who had covered his body extremely tightly, secretly taking out federal banknotes that were rare in this era, and buying something at an inconspicuous health product store in the downtown area. I've asked my family to check it out. The products sold in this store are all illegal elixirs that are strictly prohibited by the federal government. And this man in black is a member of the Zheng family. What he wants to buy is a violent blood pill that can temporarily triple his own qualities in all aspects. Obviously, this is what Zheng Lu prepared for you, Brother Su. I will destroy you at the freshman meeting. After hearing this, Sugu nodded. What Zheng Lu did was completely within his expectation. Then he said, "Then what I asked you to do, have you finished it?" "Of course." Feng Yan said confidently. "Since Brother Su said hello, I have found someone to keep an eye on the Zheng family's movements. The owner of this store has been bribed by me in advance, and the person who sold it to the Zheng family is not a violent person. The blood pill is an all-round advanced elixir of the blood-burning pill, the blood-burning soul pill. After taking this thing, the quality of all aspects of the eater will be improved tenfold. It is said that Zheng Lu was ecstatic when he got this elixir. I guess he has already decided that he will take you." After hearing this, Sugu nodded and said, "Thank you." Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. This federally banned elixir is a double-edged sword for warriors. While giving the warrior the power to tear apart his opponent, it will also drain the life potential of the user. Zheng Lu, you bought the medicine yourself, and you decided to take it when fighting me. I was just fighting with you and accidentally hit your heart a few times. Your death was just a legitimate act of self-defense. Sugu murmured to himself. This martial arts world has its own rules. Sugu doesn't want to become a wanted criminal in the Federation, so he still needs to pay attention to some skills when killing people. Brother Su, why bother, Zheng Lu, if you really want to kill him, just ask me to replace the blood-burning soul pill with some poison. Even if the Zheng family knows that it was my Feng family who did it, they will. What can I do? There are many dead men in my family who are willing to take the blame and be punished. Feng Yan said indifferently. After hearing this, Sugu smiled. I'm afraid this is the difference between an individual and a family who wants to kill someone. No need, this is between me and Zheng Lu, not your Feng family and Zheng family. Because Sugu had similar interests with Feng Yan, he was willing to talk to him and teach him some martial arts. It would be no problem for him to help him with some small help as a member of the Feng family. But if the Feng family helps him kill people, that's another matter. It's inevitable that he will be tied too deeply. Sugu didn't want to be tied to a certain family's worship for no reason. Okay, since Brother Su likes to do things himself, I won't say anything. If you encounter any difficulties, come to me at any time. Seeing Sugu's clear rejection, Feng Yan didn't take it seriously and continued to entertain with a smile. 2 days after Su Jiyu made all arrangements for killing Zheng Lu. Starry Sky Martial Arts University's annual freshman competition is here. Xingwu University is a city of martial arts that covers half of the city. During their competitions over the years, Not only the teachers and students within the university came to observe. Outstanding alumni from previous years, leaders of other martial arts forces in society, and some small and medium-sized aristocratic families will be invited to come and watch the martial arts. This year seems to be more lively than in previous years. One after another, private extraterrestrial exploration spacecrafts flew down from the sky and parked directly on the 13th playground of Tsinghua University. Some gossips among the students took a few photos and posted them on the campus website. Looking at the people walking out above, they all gasped. I don't know what happened to this year's freshman competition, but even the members of the school board of directors, who are usually invisible, came. Not only the school board, but I also saw General Yin on the spaceship. This is a federal general who came out of our school, and we even invited him out. Aren't these generals leading troops all year round to patrol the solar system? Come to us when you have time. Although we little Karami don't know what happened, this year's competition must be very important. Even if I can't compete for the first place, I can show my face and make a good impression among these big shots, which will be very important for my future, helpful. At this moment, all the students, even the special admission students, felt their hearts burning. Who doesn't want a carp to jump over the dragon's gate and soar into the sky? Isn't today a perfect opportunity? Do you think in which college Sugu will participate in the competition? Someone anonymously left a sentence on the forum. Seeing this sentence, everyone's heart felt hot. The college where Sugu is in is the command department. According to the situation of this useless college, not many students can enter the self-seeking realm at this time in the past. According to the practice of previous years, if someone in the command department is lucky enough to break through and be able to participate in the competition, these 3 or 2 students will be merged into other colleges for competition. Of course, which college to choose depends on the student's own wishes and whether the martial arts career matches it. It is said that Sugu still practices Tianyuan Gong until now. Some enthusiastic students added the second sentence. After these words were spoken, the students who were staring at the campus network felt that the temperature suddenly rose a little, and their mouths were a little dry. He was able to transcend ranks and kill the star titan of the general level. During the freshman class, he showed a fighting vision that was praised by instructor Lan Chain. Everyone is wary of Sugu and thinks he is the favorite to win the freshman competition. Perhaps only the young head of the Feng family was on the same level as him and could compete head-on with him. But things are different now. This talented person whose every move attracts everyone's attention is naturally being watched by countless people who are interested in spying on information. Soon it was revealed that Sugu had not changed his exercises during the first few days of school and was still practicing Tian Yuan Gong. This is my chance. Someone licked his lips, excitedly opened the mic directly on the public screen, and said in his voice. Listening to this voice, it should be Zanyu, a special admission student from the Warrior Academy. No wonder he was so excited. Looking at the martial arts test video leaked by Sugu, the academy he was most likely to choose for the martial arts test was the Warrior Academy. If he could defeat the famous Sugu openly in public, even if he could not attract the attention of the big shots on the school board, he would definitely attract the attention of outstanding instructors. Zanyu made it happen. People in the campus forum naturally understood Zanyu's hidden meaning, and expressed their envy and jealousy one after another. Sugu has now gone from being a big boss that everyone avoids to being a piece of meat that everyone wants to take a bite of. Located in the Starry Sky Martial Arts University, in an open and undeveloped area, a high-density battlefield of different blood and black gold has been laid. The black and red fighting venues, which are about the size of a football field, are as solemn as solemn altars. Large and small aircraft equipped with high-precision shooting equipment are located outside the battle arena. When the battle begins, these devices will rise straight up and project live battle footage taken from various angles onto various screens outside the battle venue. All the students from Starry Sky Martial Arts University who have broken through to the self-seeking realm are now gathered here. They were arranged in a square array, standing on the outside of the battlefield with serious faces. The powerful aura exuded by these young warriors added a sense of chill to the entire venue. The projection of a middle-aged man with a hideous scar on his forehead appeared in the center of the battlefield. His appearance made the previously quiet and solemn place even quieter, with only the sound of breathing and heartbeat heard. I am a former general of the Federation, now at the Starry Sky Martial Arts University, your principal Nariko asked. The projection spoke expressionlessly, introducing his identity. His tone was calm and he didn't deliberately boast about himself. But the word, general, still made the eyes of the students who stood motionless shine with a fiery light. I guess many people here have noticed that this time the freshman competition is much more important than in previous years. I won't stand against you. This competition is also a selection. Not only the school's outstanding tutors will come here to select, but also the seniors who have graduated here, and General Yin, who is currently serving in the military, will also watch with you. The best performers among them will be qualified to participate in a military trial in the Starry Sky. There, you will have the opportunity to kill the Starry Sky aliens at the warrior level with your own hands. Of course, in this trial, there are opportunities that you can't imagine and knowledge inheritance about foreign races that will not be recorded in books. When Principal Cheng Ziwen personally explained the purpose behind this freshman competition, the neatly arranged square formations shook a little. Many students squeezed their hands excitedly, their faces trembling with excitement. Different from the safe college entrance examination, this is an opportunity to truly experience yourself and kill aliens. For humans who have experienced dark ages in history, and even their home planet has been occupied, this is an honor. Not to mention, the army will lead the team. The military merit of killing foreigners can definitely be exchanged for some benefits that are rarely seen in ordinary times. I believe you all know what this means. In this case, I declare that this year's freshman competition has officially begun. The day of freshman competition has officially begun. When Noriko asked the principal to announce the start, the huge projection immediately disappeared. At this moment, many people couldn't help but focus on Sugu. The rules of the freshman competitions over the years will not change. People from each department will compete internally to select the 3 strongest as representatives of the college. Then the 3 representatives will represent their respective colleges and compete in elimination battles to finally select this year's first freshman. As a commanding officer, which academy will Sugu choose to participate in the competition? Feeling the gazes around him, Sugu glanced around, and soon he found Jung Lu in the crowd. It turns out you are from the Warrior Academy. A cold smile appeared on Sugu's face, and he said to the teacher next to him who was responsible for recording, "I participate in the internal competition of the Warrior Academy." After hearing this, Zanyu, a special admission student at Warrior Academy, almost jumped with excitement. He had previously stated on the Academy website that he was looking forward to this battle, but he never expected that he would actually get what he wished for. If he were in the realm of self-cultivation, Sugu, who could transcend levels and kill enemies, would certainly be worthy of his serious treatment and even decisive retreat. But now that he is in the Seeking Me realm, Zanyu, who has already used powerful skills, can clearly understand how much improvement a warrior can have after practicing the skills. The difference between the martial arts and the tapping of a warrior's power is the difference between heaven and earth. They are both special admission students of Starry Sky Martial Arts University. He does not believe that he will lose to Sugu. Defeating this school's influential figure is his chance to make a name for himself. Zanyu. Sugu is currently operating, completing the status level of the command system to participate in the competition in the Warrior Academy. At this moment, Jung Lu was also staring at Sugu's back with cold eyes. "I really didn't expect that, Suji Yu. Your skill is still Tian Yuan Gong." A contemptuous smile appeared on Jung Lu's face. He only got the news recently. Knowing this, his previously agitated heart completely calmed down. Without Sugu's existence, he would have been the provincial champion. Jung Lu has always been worried about this. He believed that his strength and Sugu's were equal to each other. As long as you use some props, you can definitely break the balance of power between them. If I had known you looked like this, why would I have spent a lot of money on blood-burning, soul-burning pills? If I want to destroy you, I don't need to use pills at all. According to Jung Lu's original plan, he would find an opportunity in the freshman competition to completely destroy Sugu, beating him so hard that he could not practice martial arts and was forced to drop out of school. When Sugu leaves Starry Sky Martial Arts University, with his Jung family's influence, he can manipulate him at will. Now it seems that this plan is much smoother than Jung Lu expected. At this moment, on an immobile airship high in the sky, wine and food are intertwined here. A group of people in formal attire are holding wine glasses and socializing here. From time to time, he points his finger at the battle venue of the underground Starry Sky Martial Arts University, showing the projected images, commenting on a student who appeared. These are all prestigious figures from all walks of life invited by the school in this freshman competition. Many of them are heads of regional halls of some aristocratic families, important officials of some local federations, and outstanding lecturers at Star Martial Arts University. For them here, in addition to the freshman competition, the more important thing is actually socializing. In the VIP room on the airship, a man with a short and curly beard, wearing a battle armor, and a face as dark as coal was pouring a bottle of wine down his throat. He glanced through the window at the group of people socializing outside, and suddenly asked curiously, "What's going on over there at Warrior Academy? Is that student who attracts a lot of attention famous?" General Yin, who came from the Solar System Space Garrison Base, asked curiously. If only the students had cast their eyes on him, the question would not have arisen from the federal general. But when he just looked outside, he found that many instructors from Xingwu University, and even his mentor Lan Cheng, briefly let his eyes stay for a moment after the Sugu boy appeared. This aroused his curiosity. His question was quickly answered by the intelligent AI in the room, and he clicked his tongue after hearing the original meaning. It turns out he is a student who is destroying his own future. He immediately lost interest. Everyone has seen a high-ranking person of his level. This kind of thing is completely unworthy of his attention. At this time, the door in the VIP room was pushed open. After seeing who came, he smiled and said, "Lao Cheng, you are not authentic. When you gave your speech just now, you didn't tell the students the full purpose of this freshman competition. You still have to keep your hands on your own students." Listening to his friend's teasing, Noriko asked with a wry smile on his face. "What can I say?" Naruko smiled bitterly and said, "Tell these students that according to the school board of directors, if they can join the Star Force Brigade with you, they may be selected into the school team, and thus participate in the Solar System Martial Arts College Conference? Do you think those on the school board who spend their days on the moon, drinking and thinking about policies with their drunken buttocks, are reliable?" Listening to his old friend's complaints, General Yin silently took away the wine bottle from his mouth. When Cheng Zi asked, he continued, "I don't have such high expectations for these freshmen. After all, they are just freshmen and they are too immature. In the competition a year later, the juniors and seniors will be the main force of our school. I'm asking you to help with the new students. I just want the children with potential among them to gain experience to cope with the next conference." Hearing what Cheng Ziwen said, General Yin also showed a trace of nostalgia and helplessness on his face. At the Solar System Martial Arts College Conference, he and Cheng Ziwen also represented the school in the competition. But even with two young men who have the potential to become federal generals leading the team, Star Martial Arts University's ranking has not broken through the top 500. It's not that they are weak, it's that their opponents are too strong. The organizers of this conference are not the federal governments of the major planets, but the 10 major families that have stood at the apex of mankind since before martial arts was born and before humans left the solar system and opened up the star sea. Participants in the conference are not only registered colleges and universities within the Federation, but also some powerful families will send their outstanding disciples to participate. This year's situation may be a little more complicated. Arnold, the captain of Kaiyang Martial Arts University who has been our competitor in the past years, started to have an epiphany in martial arts after the battle with the almighty god of martial arts, and is now in retreat. There is no doubt that he will become better after he comes out, powerful. This time, he is the new student from Kaiyang Martial Arts University who will lead the team to the trial. When you take our students to the trial, you will definitely bump into people from Kaiyang Martial Arts University. If the two sides meet, there will inevitably be conflicts between the freshmen. Start a fight. I specifically asked teacher Lan Ching to use the battle between Almighty Martial God and Arnold as the lesson plan for the first lesson of the school year. This is to allow these freshmen to familiarize themselves with their opponents in advance, so as not to become timid before fighting. Noriko pressed her temples and said with a headache, "Not only has the captain of a rival school made a breakthrough recently, but even members of some large aristocratic families are trying their best to compete this year, and they don't know why." Thinking of this year's complicated situation, Cheng Ziwen, as the principal, no longer has any hope that the rankings of colleges and universities can rise this year. He just hopes not to fall too hard. "Oh, the defending battle has already begun. I didn't expect this kid to have the courage to defend the challenge." General Yin looked at the battle that had already begun on the projection screen in the VIP room, and looked at the young man named Sugu who he just went to inquire about, and said jokingly as he walked onto the ring. The rules of the Starry Sky Martial Arts University freshman competition are rough and simple. The arena is built with different blood and black gold. If you want to be the winner, go up and defend the arena. Once you stand alone on the ring, you are the ring guard. Anyone from the same college can go up and have a one-on-one duel. The final winner is the one with the greatest number of successes. Generally speaking, few people are willing to be the first ring guard. After all, at this time, the physical strength of all students in the college is at its peak. If you are the first to go up and be challenged in a loop, you will inevitably suffer a loss, so most people are waiting and watching. While these people were watching, Sugu walked up alone. From the eyes of others, he seemed to be a foolhardy man. The first defender of the Warrior Academy is Sugu. Sugu held a long knife in his hand. When he was in the center of the fighting arena, the aircraft in the sky broadcast the news to the audience with a mechanical sound. Many people couldn't help but look at the arena at the Warrior Academy. Looking at Sugu's figure, a trace of fire flashed in their eyes. The most prestigious special admission student in the school has not yet entered the school, and the video of the cross-level battle has been circulated on the internet. Such people enjoy a great reputation. But at this moment, he was still practicing Tian Yuan Gong, and it seemed that he was not worthy of the fame he enjoyed. Many people are interested in defeating Tian Zhao in public. Sugu is like a piece of fat, coveted. If they didn't belong to different colleges and couldn't challenge according to the rules, it's estimated that many people would have rushed over by now. Zheng Lu looked at Sugu with a sinister smile on his face. Just today, he is going to cripple Sugu. Just when he was about to say that he wanted to challenge Sugu, a loud voice sounded next to him. Sugu, let me fight with you. As he spoke, Zanyu seemed to be afraid of being overtaken by others, so he directly used the step ladder to the clouds to step up into the air and stand on the ring. Zanyu stared at Sugu, with a hint of passion on his face. Ever since he found out that Sugu didn't take advantage of the special admissions privileges to redeem his own skills, he had the idea of defeating him in public in the freshman competition and becoming a real figure in the school. Unexpectedly, everything went so smoothly. Zanyu even felt that even God was helping him. Compared to Zanyu's excitement, Sugu just raised his eyelids, glanced at the other party casually, and then began to play with the long knife in his hand. It seems that he doesn't care at all who his opponent is. Over at the Warrior Academy, students have already entered the ring and are ready to fight. Who do you think will win? In the social space of the airship, those outstanding instructors of Xingwu University who were observing the arena in the dark, many of them turned their attention when the first duel took place. They also hoped to discover outstanding students in the freshman competition and recruit them under their tutelage for training. Sugu versus Zanyu. These two are special recruits. I didn't expect to see such a fierce battle in the first game. Zanyu is a special soldier recruit, and this Sugu is a commanding officer? Don't be surprised, this Sugu is like this. The information of the two students quickly spread among these tutors, and when they looked at Sugu's situation, the expressions on their faces became extremely strange. Even though these tutors have been practicing for so many years, this is the first time they have seen such a strange student. He was obviously the top scorer in the martial arts exam, but he took the initiative to go to the command department. Obviously the school has promised that he can choose from all the top techniques, and he can also seek advice from top instructors and plan his own martial arts path. But this student is still practicing Tian Yuan Gong until now. When many warriors are young, they will think that they are different and unique. Therefore, they will rebelliously take some paths that have not been taken by their predecessors. After many years of looking back, they realize that they have wasted their time. This is probably the case with Sugu. Mentor Qian Lu said something like this between these people, neither salty nor cold. These words were recognized by most of the instructors present. As instructors who have served at Xingwu University for many years, they have indeed seen many such situations. With Sugu's fighting skills, this battle will last for 10 minutes, but the final winner will be Zanyu. Soon someone spoke out their predictions, and most people nodded after listening. Standing in the middle of these mentors, Lan Cheng, the oldest, has always ignored what these people said. He looked at Sugu's back and recalled the first lesson of school. This young man pointed out the theme he wanted to teach in class. Is such a person really someone who has no knowledge or plan for his own martial arts path? Lan Qing looked at the battle that was about to begin, and the corners of his wrinkled eyes narrowed slightly. Zheng Lu looked at the two people on the rein with a rather dissatisfied expression on his face. Damn it, Zhan Yu actually took away what he wanted to do. The information that Sugu practiced a transitional skill called Tian Yuan Gong had long been spread in the school. Zheng Lu believed that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him to take action. Maybe as long as he could seize this opportunity and completely cripple Sugu, he wouldn't need to take the blood-burning, soul-burning pill he purchased. But now this opportunity has been ruined by this guy Zhan Yu. Zheng Lu gritted his teeth and stared fiercely at Sugu on the rein. He prayed in his heart that after Sugu was beaten down, he would still have a chance to fight him in the rain. I planned to use the gravity bracelet to trick you, and you crippled my little brother in front of me. The grudge between us has long been irresolvable. In this case, I will definitely get rid of enemies like you sooner. Zheng Lu thought silently in his heart. On the stage, Sugu and Zhan Yu stood on both sides and faced off. Zhan Yu's face was full of excitement. Defeating Sugu was the first step for him to become famous in Xingwu University and become a famous figure in the college. Compared with him, Sugu seemed a little absent-minded. When the mechanical referee confirmed that both warriors were ready, the countdown projection for the start of the battle began to light up. 10, 9, 8, 7. When the number turned into 5, Sugu raised his eyes and seemed to be seriously sizing up his opponent. Use your strongest defensive combat skills immediately, Sugu said calmly. There was an unquestionable command in those calm words. But it's not like giving a verbal deterrent to the opponent before the battle, but more like a suggestion. Zhan Yu frowned, thoughts flashing through his mind. Having your brain kicked in the ass, giving advice to your opponent before the fight begins? Sugu, who do you think you are? At this moment, the projection countdown returned to 0. In an instant, Zhan Yu felt an extremely terrifying pressure coming towards him. He felt as if he was being pulled into the deep sea, completely out of breath, and the pressure around him almost made him vomit blood. Damn it! The alien black gold sword in his hand stabbed into the sole of his foot, and Zhan Yu relied on the pain to force himself out of his daze. He looked at Sugu, his face full of fear. What was that just now, a mental shock combat skill? Wasn't he practicing Tian Yuan Gong? What is this coercion all about? As a special recruit of the Warrior Academy, after quickly adjusting to his condition, he began to list in his mind the various possibilities of the situation that had just occurred. Zhan Yu put away all his contempt, tensed his muscles, and looked at Sugu, ready to fight. Sugu seemed to have been waiting to recover. He nodded imperceptibly and then swung a slash in the direction of Zhan Yu. At that moment, the long knife in Sugu's hand seemed to turn into an ancient wild beast, and everyone could hear the roar of the beast coming from the blade. An extremely terrifying sword light struck in Zhan Yu's direction at an extremely fast speed and was unavoidable. Zhan Yu didn't have time to think too much and immediately did what Sugu said before the war started, using his strongest defensive combat skills. Bluestone Jade Body. Zhan Yu's body was instantly wrapped in a ball of cyan soul power, as if wrapped in a layer of cyan armor. The terrifying sword light collided with the layer of cyan armor. The two did not stand for a second or so. The cyan armor began to disintegrate layer by layer, and was chopped into pieces almost instantly. The power of the sword contained in the sword light did not seem to weaken. After crushing all Zhan Yu's defenses, it slashed at Zhan Yu's body without mercy. Ah! Zhan Yu screamed in the sky, blood splattered everywhere. He was knocked away like a piece of randomly discarded garbage. Zhan Yu, who was also a special recruiter like Suji Yu, was cut out of the ring with a knife. Boom! Zhan Yu fell to the ground, his body covered with blood, and cold sweat continued to flow from his forehead. If it hadn't been for the use of the Bluestone Jade Body to block the sword's light for a moment, giving Zhan Yu the opportunity to release his force and adjust his posture to receive the force, I'm afraid it would have been more than just being cut out of the ring. I'm afraid that if I take this blow, I will be comatose for at least a week. Suddenly, Zhan Yu remembered the advice Sugu gave before the battle, reminding him to use his strongest defense. Damn it! Is this guy really thinking about me? An unbearable sense of humiliation rose from Zhan Yu's heart. For a warrior, the most disgusting thing is when fighting an opponent, but the opponent is worried about whether he will hit too hard and accidentally injure the opponent. Zanyu recalled the excitement he felt when he wanted to confront Sugu, and suddenly felt like a clown. He seemed to feel that the physical pain was no longer unbearable, and it was the mental blow that made him feel sick. Zanyu's head shook and he fainted. Several medical staff rushed towards him. When they confirmed that Zanyu's life was okay, a mechanical announcement came out. The first battle at Warrior Academy, winner, Sugu, closed black lens bracket. At this moment, in the arena area, everyone in the Warrior Academy was completely silent. Their eyes looking at Sugu were full of incomprehension and disbelief. This quiet atmosphere even affected other colleges. Many people turned their attention to Sugu, with fear in their eyes. The battle between the two men fighting nearby, who were attacking and defending, stopped for a moment because of Sugu's sword. Hasn't it been said that Sugu's practice of Tianyuan Gong has lost its competitiveness in this freshman competition? Does the so-called loss of competitiveness mean that special enrollment will be given seconds with one knife? Does this seem like a loss of competitiveness? This is definitely the seed player who can win the championship. How could he be so strong? Among the many fearful glances, there was one that contained resentment and fear. Zheng Lu turned pale and murmured as if he was having a nightmare. Zheng Lu had always believed that even if Sugu could kill enemies across borders in the realm of self-cultivation, it would only be the previous realm. It is still unclear who can go further in the realm of seeking me. Even subconsciously, he always thought that he and Sugu were on equal terms. After all, even if Sugu's talent is a little higher than him, behind him, he has the resources of a noble family to support him. How could the future head of the Zheng family lose to you, a commoner with no background? Now seeing Sugu's slash from close range, Zheng Lu knew that he was wrong, very wrong. Damn it, damn it, damn it, Zheng Lu cursed crazily in his heart. He found someone to assassinate Sugu in the 1,000-story martial arts pagoda area, and the hatred between the two was impossible to resolve. Now it was more than just a personal grudge against Sugu. He had to eliminate this big problem in the future in advance. Zheng Lu took out the blood-burning soul-burning pill he had purchased in advance from his arms, with a gloomy expression on his face. I thought I wouldn't need this thing before, but now it seems that it was a wise decision to tell the clansmen to buy this thing in advance. Improve your body function tenfold. Although the side effects are a bit serious, it's worth it for Sugu. Zheng Lu quietly concealed his figure in the darkness. He wanted to take this pill and adapt to the emerging power as much as possible in a short period of time without letting others see the flaws. Student Sugu, according to the rules, after completing a ring battle, as the ring guard, you will have 1 to 10 minutes of rest. How long do you need to rest? A small camera flew to Sugu in the sky and spoke to him with a mechanical voice. No, I don't need to rest, just start right now. Sugu said calmly. As he spoke, he moved his shoulders. He hadn't used a knife for a long time, and he was really not used to it. The defenders have finished their rest. Please invite the next attacker from the Warrior Academy to come on stage. The emotionless mechanical sound echoed in the arena. But among the thousands of students on the field, no one dared to answer. The arena area, which was originally noisy, was now so quiet that one could only hear the nervous heartbeats of the students below. The defenders have finished their rest. Please invite the next attacker from the Warrior Academy to come on stage. The machine started broadcasting again, but there was still no response. These talented students who were admitted to the Starry Sky Martial Arts University all seemed to be mute. Attack? Attack what? Giving away heads? I didn't see that. Zanyu, who was a special admission student, was instantly defeated by Sugu. Students like them, who were not even qualified for the special admissions, were still joining in the fun. Time passed by, but even though they knew that Sugu was about to advance, they didn't even have a chance to perform, and no one dared to step forward. The students of the Warrior Academy raised their heads and looked at Sugu in the rain, with humiliation written all over their faces. People in the command department now have to use their quota in the Warrior Academy to compete with other academies for first place in the freshman competition? Nothing so outrageous has ever happened to Starry Sky Martial Arts University since its establishment. But it happened to happen in their session. Damn it, why did Sugu come to their academy to fight? These people are cursing their mothers crazily in their hearts. It's interesting. In the VIP room of the airship in the sky, General Yin watched the replay of the Lion's Roar and 10,000 Tigers' Sword, slashed by Sugu with a smile on his lips. This sword technique is an inferior version of your boxing technique. It's really impressive that this student can do it like this. The principal Cheng Ziwen on the side also praised aloud. I guess in order to cut such a stunning sword with one sword strike, this student will have to practice hard in this combat skill for 5 years. The sword strike just now seemed good to both of us, not to mention those people outside. Maybe teacher Lan Qing has even thought of accepting a disciple. The two big guys were talking to each other, and just as they said, the public area used for socializing outside the airship was currently being discussed heatedly because of Sugu. To be able to achieve such killing power, isn't the technique he practices, Tian Yuan Gong? How on earth did he do this? The outstanding instructors of Star Martial Arts University felt dazed as they looked at what was happening in the arena. With one move, Zhan Yu, who was also a special recruit, was killed. Now he was even more shocked, and no one in the entire Warrior Academy dared to step on the stage. Being able to perform such a dominant performance, not many people have been able to do it over the years. Many people looked at the handsome young man who was waiting for his opponent in the ring, and their eyes were different. Those in charge of the branches of the martial arts forces began to inquire whether this young man belonged to them, and wanted to absorb him in advance. Some outstanding instructors at Shinkong Martial Arts University are also thinking about what kind of resources they can give Sugu and whether it is possible to recruit him as their disciple. Suddenly, many people in the airship floating in the sky began to come and go to spy on Sugu's information because of his wandering mind. Similar, but not the same. At this moment, Mentor Lan Qing looked at Sugu's calm eyes through the broadcast, and his heart was filled with emotions. This treasure-level instructor of Xingwu University had much more sinister eyes than many people present. When Sugu's battle just started, he was fully focused and stared at it without blinking. With his many years of martial arts experience, his naked eyes have noticed many things in this live broadcast. The technique used by this student named Sugu is definitely not Tian Yuan Gong. But even though it wasn't, it felt very similar to him, and this feeling was extremely strange. Could it be? A bold guess flashed through Lan Qing's head. Lan Qing's old body began to tremble as if he had received an electric shock, and his blood flow accelerated, making his skin slightly red. The excitement in his eyes could not be concealed. He stared at Sugu's back without blinking. He was still not completely sure that he wanted to watch another battle between Sugu. Invite the next challenger from the Warrior Academy to the stage. If no one is willing to challenge the defender within 5 minutes of holding the rein, the defender will be judged to have succeeded in keeping the rein according to the rules. Sugu will be ranked number 1 in the Warrior Academy, and as a representative of the academy, he will compete with other academies for the first place in the freshman competition. The mechanical announcement sounded throughout the venue, but the sound echoed on the field. This time it added a rule that was not mentioned before. The students under the ring looked at Sugu, and many of their faces turned red. Do those who go to the command department really want to take away their places in the Warrior Academy to participate in the competition to be the leader of the freshman competition? They are unwilling to do so. At this moment, Sugu's face still looked calm, and he was not that concerned about these things. It would be best if the freshman can win the competition and get more resources from the school. But his real purpose was to pull out the poisonous snake around him. When I think of that 20-fold gravity bracelet at the 1,000-layer martial arts tower, as the mastermind behind this incident was still with him, Sugu felt as if there was a thorn in his flesh. If Zheng Lu is not allowed to disappear, Su Jiyu will be uneasy even after 4 years of college. The sword I just cut with Zhan Yu showed my strength appropriately. Now Zheng Lu must have raised my threat level in his heart, and he is even more eager to eliminate it quickly. If I were spotted by the army during the freshman competition and participated in the trial in the starry sky, it would be completely useless to him. Losing control is even more unacceptable. He must take the elixir I prepared and then come over to challenge me. Sugu felt extremely certain in his heart. His current mentality is like that of a fisherman sitting firmly on the diaoyutai. The bait used for fishing is himself. Invite the next challenger from the Warrior Academy to come forward. This is the last time we inform you that if no one comes up to challenge Sugu after 1 minute, he will automatically advance. The mechanical voice issued a final warning. Upon hearing this sound, the people in the Warrior Academy looked at each other in shock, with frustration written on everyone's face. Unless another unimaginable dark horse appears, it will be impossible to fight Sugu on an equal footing. At this moment, A violent voice sounded from behind the crowd. Sugu, I want to challenge you. Jung Lu took out his pair of finger tigers and looked at Sugu with a sinister smile. Looking at Jung Lu, Sugu also smiled. The fish finally bit the hook.